Tonight on Countdown to Green, we take a look back at all the action from the Lady in Black. We talk with reigning series champion Steven Wilson. We take a look at how you're racing at home. All that and more tonight on Countdown to Green.
Hello and welcome to Countdown to Green, presented by eNASCAR, as we are getting set for race 10 of this 2024 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series campaign. And we're happy that you're tuned in early with us here on the iRacing Esports Network. Alongside myself, Evan Pasoko, joined by Alan Cavana and Blake McCandless. Happy to be the QB2, or the, I guess, second line center with Camille.
Serviceable backup quarterback. There you go.
Exactly. Backup QB, if you will. Happy to be with you guys early for this one with an exciting first trip to Iowa, Blake, on deck.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. Brand new, or not a brand new, we've had this earlier in the season, but a brand new racetrack, a new heat format that'll be going along with all the short tracks with us this season. We get to see it again tonight, so it's going to be aggressive from the drop, Alan.
Yeah, and look, it's new for some, right? It's new to our regular season. For the Sunday people, it'll be new. A lot of fans out in Iowa. I love this is a good way to preview the big shows that are coming up this weekend in Iowa, out in Des Moines, out in Newton. This is the way to do it with our Pro Series drivers. This time it counts, so they got a lot on the line tonight.
We've been here before, but it'll be the first points race in series history. Let's look back, though, to Darlington a couple of weeks ago. That was the final race in segment number 2.
And a lot happened in this final race in segment 2. You can see the green flag. Steven Wilson, I don't think anybody was surprised to see the points leader going into the night, leading us from the green flag. But Bobby Zielinski, Alan, very early on, made a lot of moves up through the field. You can see a little skirmish with the wall right there, but he was certainly a factor. But so was Vicente Salas. He was undeniable throughout this entire race.
Yeah, all the more impressive when you see people like Caden Honeycutt, like Bobby Zielinski, who were able to make moves, and this was not one of them, one to forget there. But a lot of this was track position, right, Blake, on for Darlington. And sometimes we have those races, and sometimes it means making those tough passes, being a little aggressive when you have to. But when you're able to get through all this and survive the Lady in Black and get yourself out front, it was something of a surprise winner. Vicente really put it on him at times.
It really did. Again, a lot of tight racing throughout the field. You could see Tyler Gary there, a couple of saves that he was able to make. Zach Novak. This is where the entire complexion of this race changed, though. 3 wide off of turn 2 leads to an eventual spin from the 29 of Matt Busa. And this race completely kind of flips on a script. Strategy came down to it, but Vicente Salas, with 2 laps to go, green-white checkered, was able to bring it home for his first win of the 2024 season. And a driver, Alan, that came in second in points, but finally has that also important playoff win now.
Yeah, Vicente earned that win, but to me it was the small mistakes, Blake, led to big consequences, because we saw Steven Wilson had so much speed and was leading laps, but he came in the pits and overshot his pit stall. And in a race where track position meant everything, he never sniffed the lead again. Was he any worse? Probably not. Still had the speed, the skill, but a small mistake led to big consequences for Steven Wilson at Darlington. Got to fix that if you want to get those checkered flags.
For sure, and again, a championship candidate, I think, ready and primed to clean it up in the second half of the year. But how about Vicente Salas? Again, we mentioned he was second coming into the points. He's second coming into tonight in the championship standings, but now he has that win. He also won the Segment 2 championship, so he gets 5 additional playoff points. So it was a 10 playoff point night for Vicente Salas. He's about 20 or so back from Steven Wilson in the overall standings. Is he a favorite to gather some more playoff points if he were to win the overall regular season championship? I think through each different race we've seen, or different type of racetrack we've seen, Alan, out of Vicente Salas, that he's capable of running up front at all of them. So perhaps an early favorite for Tony Kanaan Esports and the ERA Toyota to perhaps win that regular season crown and challenge Steven Wilson, who is at the top of it. As we take a look at our playoff standings, it is ever changing, ever evolving, with these drivers who are kind of teetering in and outside of the top 20 in the standings. Malik Ray, after Darlington, was able to get back into the top 20 in the standings. So he, along with 4 other one-time winners, along with Steven Wilson. So 4 points or 4 positions right now available for drivers who are in on the points. They have a considerable margin, at least for now, over Tucker Minter, who's surged up through the second half of this season. But as far as the Segment 2 championship, this is how close it was, Alan. Just 3 points between Vicente Salas, Bobby Zielinski, made the difference for 5 playoff points. And that's something that each of those 2 drivers, Salas and Zielinski, who we know are pretty much playoff bound at this point, they are going to use for all they can in the first 3 races of the playoffs.
Yeah, imagine the difference that will make once the playoffs come around. Let's not forget about the team standings. A lot of pride on the line, some money and trophies. Not a lot of movement after Darlington's position-wise, but look at the top of the standings there. Because of Vicente, because of the drivers at Tony Kanaan Esports, it's now just a 2-point difference. Right up to William Byron Esports. The top is so close. You can make up a lot of points. It's about 70 points possible you can make up between your 2 drivers. And Tony Kanaan Esports has made this such a fun race with William Byron Esports. I'm excited to see what they can do, how much Iowa will affect these team standings, because TK, his drivers, they're coming, guys.
Yeah, they are, and there's even going to be more points on the line tonight. We'll talk heat format specific things that relate to Iowa, but that means even more points on the line. And it seems like it's a bit of a 2-horse breakaway, no pun intended. There's still 8 races left, full season team championship wise. So I think there's a lot of people, Blake, that can still be in that conversation.
Oh, absolutely. Again, 5 races left. A lot can happen. We've seen seasons kind of disintegrate at this point of the year, kind of midway through. So anything can happen. These guys have to be on it every single race. And for those drivers that are outside of the top 20 right now, maybe they're looking to take some risk because, again, they got to get that win to get into the playoffs.
Interview lined up, Alan. We'll toss things off to you to learn more about the team that's sitting 5th in the team standings right now. That's M80.
Yeah, I always like to go in depth with some of these teams, especially ones we may not have heard of. M80, brand new this year, so we were able to talk with one of the team principals for that team, Marcel Moreau. First and foremost, we asked, where'd you come up with the name? How do you come up with M80?
How we came up with the name M80? Well, look, I mean, like, everyone in the U.S. knows what an M80 is, right? It's a quarter stick of dynamite. It's pretty much illegal in most places to buy these days, but it's an explosive, powerful force that we wanted to kind of associate ourselves with and the brand that we were going to build. So it's been a fun brand to bring into esports, and it's been well received by most fans. So we're excited about that, and we have some cool stuff that's coming up pretty soon on the brand as well that we're going to be announcing. So we're looking forward to that too.
Yeah, Marco's right. We definitely love our fireworks here in America. But they got the win. M80 got its first team win with Steven Wilson. So how exciting was that? And what was it like picking Steven Wilson, defending champion for the team? Here's what he told us.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about. Like, you never know. I mean, nothing's ever given, especially in something like sim racing, right? Where there's so many drivers on the track every single week. There's, accidents and all kinds of stuff that could happen that can affect where somebody can place. But he just is very, very consistent. We saw that last year with him and his race result last year. We just figured that he's always going to be sniffing around the front of the pack. And he's going to win a couple of those races, which obviously he has, and he's going to get back to the championship, which we were pretty confident he would do, and he has done. So yeah, it's one of those things where he's, we kind of picked the favorite, I guess, in a horse race, if you will, like the best odds, but that's okay. There's nothing wrong with going with a favorite, especially when he's going to play for you. So
what's great about iRacing and eNASCAR is bringing other esports entities into this sport. And that's what we did with M80, essentially, right? So what was so enticing about sim racing for M80? We asked Marco.
Yeah, so I think, look, for any esport, not just sim racing and eNASCAR, for any esport, I think for most organizations these days that are trying to run linear businesses, there's got to be a path to profitability and a path to make it a good business decision. You can't just get into esports because you think the game is cool, because it doesn't work like that, right? That's a really good way to go out of business. So I think for us, just seeing the changes that the NASCAR team is willing to make in the series and their willingness to work with different organizations and different partners made it a lot more compelling for us to come back in and to participate, and again to really get in front of a unique audience that you don't normally get to touch, I think, on a day-to-day basis in more traditional esports, and get that brand visibility across live racing events, NASCAR events, Daytona, like all kinds of really cool opportunities to really cross over into the culture of auto racing and NASCAR.
Yeah, the visibility sure is theirs. I love their logo as well. But we know they're bigger than just eNASCAR and sim racing. So at M80, how much intermingling is there with the racing side of things? We asked Marco.
Everyone kind of backs each other here and supports each other. When there's a race, the guys from the teams will love to tune in and check it out. It's all very new to a lot of them. I also find that sim racing and the Coca-Cola series in particular are a lot more engaging when you watch it, and you watch it in motion and you watch the actual races versus just seeing a screenshot or a highlight photo of a photo finish. Like when you actually watch the race, it's pretty compelling stuff, right? And I think the Twitch viewership is up and impressions are up, and visibility is up for the series. So I think it's all, they're starting to really kind of integrate the players into live events. We've had Steven come out to Kansas City this season, and he'll probably do some additional events as well to meet fans, sign autographs, and all that type of stuff. And we love skinning the cards and getting the cards ready for our partners that we work with in the series as well. So it's great to kind of blend that unique aspect.
Always great to have a new group come in and join us here in iRacing and eNASCAR, and we're seeing some of their cars out there now. Look, this is a big race for Steven Wilson. There he is. Love that logo. I just love the logo. Look, M80s, like you said, we all know what that is. Great paint scheme, very recognizable out there on the racetrack. Wilson, fastest in practice, producer Drew is telling us. You can see the times right there. Just sitting there in the pits. I guess that's one of those things, competitors, Evan and Blake, can tell us. Like when you're fast, you just go there and you park it in the pits there and let everybody else try to catch up to you.
Drew scooped me. I was really excited to tee up right after you and say that he was currently fastest in practice as we took a look in, and Drew beat me to the punch. They're about 10 minutes or so away, Blake, from getting to qualifying. You see Wilson, Tinsley, White, some of the top names right now in practice.
And again, during these times in practice, especially once this server opens, these drivers get the opportunity to try and go out and qualify. I think that's why you see the practice times are so close to one another. This is their Q trim. They know how important it is, especially with the heat race format that we have tonight, making up track position. Opportunities are going to come few and far between, so you got to be able to execute qualifying. And right now, you can see Parker White does a little bit one better. We also have a little bit of cloud cover right now, so that could be something as well. A little bit colder or a little bit of a cooler track that's going to have a lot of grip compared to what we thought we would see.
Drivers have been saying it might be a little bit loose as well, off of 2, off of 4, so cooler conditions, a little bit of extra grip. I don't think we're going to see too many complaints if that's the case, but it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out over the course of the night. As now it's the 51 and the 53 as Strauss and White going to the top of the board, so a big swing in that direction. We were talking a lot about Steven Wilson. He's doing good in practice thus far. We had an opportunity to chat with Steven before the race.
To win the championship, it meant everything. I mean, it's what we work for in this series. It's what we strive for when we race every other week, and all the testing time we put in throughout the year, and just to validate that and be able to celebrate with friends and family and teammates just means everything. So when I crossed the line at Homestead, really it started on the white flag lap, and I knew I had it right then, so I took the whole last lap, and no one really knows this, but my spotter, David Shieldhouse, was streaming, and I took the whole last lap to just thank everybody watching and thanks everybody for being there. But it all started on the whole last lap. The emotions were flowing through, and finally to cross that checkered flag and hear everybody screaming for it too was awesome and just overwhelming. Yeah, the experience with Byron was cool. Obviously, we broke the trophy the second we touched it, but other than that, once we got it figured out, it was all good, and it's just really cool to share that moment with people like Byron and Kevin, who was also there, and Keelan. So that was really cool for the whole team, Stuart Haas, to bring them out and to have them be at the event as well. Yeah, over my iRacing career, it's been a big grind to get to where I am. Started back in 2017, so it took about 6-7 years to fully reach that championship, which is very cool to validate all that time spent on the game, and just to be able to put all that work in and know that I have the capabilities of being one of the best on the sim means a lot, and hopefully one day we can match the most wins in championships. So my conversation with M80 started with Ryan Luza. Ryan hooked me up with them, and got a call with them, and just really excited to be able to work with them. They're a really good group, new group to the series this year, but excited to work with them. They have a lot of things planned, and we'll see where that leads. Track I'm most excited to race at is Iowa, because home track, first time this year for the Cup Series in real life and for us. So should be fun. That'll be one that I'll try hard to win, and we'll see what happens. I've been going to that track since it's been opened in 2005. I've been a season ticket holder for years, so saw a bunch of races out there, IndyCar, NASCAR, all that stuff, and it's really cool to finally see the Cup Series go there. Hopefully it'll be a good race. Hopefully I'll be in attendance. That's my plan anyway, but also to be able to race there in Coke and have a hometown race to try to win is really big. Yeah, becoming a two-time champion would be awesome. We've seen in years past that sometimes there's a little bit of a drought for the champion the year after they win it. So just trying to break that curse and trying to bring it all for this season and go back to back. Winning the championship again would mean a lot of fun on that night, and just family and friends and all the celebration that comes with it. I think the motivation is still going to be there for this year in 2024. I think knowing that feeling of being at the top of the mountain is not something that I want to give up. So it's just something that I want to stay on top, win that championship, win all the races I can, and it's just a good feeling to win, and losing sucks.
Steven Wilson hasn't done a lot of losing recently, guys, including an eNASCAR College iRacing Series championship in University of Iowa colors.
Yeah, he didn't get that memo about a slump after winning the championship. He's getting all those trophies all over the place, and just love seeing that video of his family. Remember 2 years ago, all his family came from Iowa, didn't get the title. Last year they showed up again. He was able to bring it home, Blake.
Well, and I think Steven Wilson, he's somebody that I remember seeing on the sim 4 or 5 years ago, knowing that he was going to be a factor and he was going to be somebody that we were going to be watching. And once he got there, he's going to be a hard driver to knock off. And I think you've seen from the performance that he has this season, his demeanor, everything about it, that he's going to be on top, and he's going to stay on the top of this series for a while. So I don't think he's going anywhere this season or really any time in the near future.
Tonight is the first points race here at Iowa Speedway in series history, but it is not the first time the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series has visited Iowa. So in this week's edition of From the Vault, Justin Melillo walks us through iRacing's TV debut.
Iowa Speedway might be a brand new track on the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series schedule. But what if I told you that this isn't the first time these virtual stars have taken on the 7/8 mile oval? Back in 2019, NBC Sports joined in on the 10th season of eNASCAR by broadcasting races live as a part of their weekly show, NASCAR America. The very first race to hit the airwaves was an all-star event at Iowa Speedway, which featured 35 eNASCAR competitors, plus NBC Sports reporter and eNASCAR team owner Parker Kligerman. Kligerman started in position number 1, but was quickly consumed by the field. The race fell into the hands of Nick Ottinger and Ryan Luza, the two crossing the line in a photo finish, with Ottinger just a few millimeters ahead. This race led to 2 more live TV events with NBC Sports. The second was another all-star race at Rockingham Speedway, won by Zach Novak. The final race in 2019 was the first points-paying race aired on national television, the eNASCAR Championship finale at Homestead Miami Speedway.
Novak will squeeze on the outside, and for the first time, Zach Novak is an eNASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series champion.
In the real world, Iowa is a staple of the NASCAR Xfinity Series. But this year, we get to see it host the Cup cars in NASCAR and in eNASCAR. And maybe it'll be Nick Ottinger on top, defending his eNASCAR Iowa crown.
Again, first off, I got to give Parker a little bit of shade right here. He wasn't able to keep up in that All-Star race. I'm going to have to tell him about that later. But a really cool experience there. And of course, to see the exposure the series got early on. And again, the fact this isn't the first time that we've been to Iowa. It has a history in the series.
It's got a history. It's got some good racing. Now we get to see it both here again where it counts for points. We get to see it on Saturday and Sunday this weekend. All those fans out there deserve to see it. And some of them clearly watching now because, look, this track, it's something new. It's something fun to think about now that it's here for us in this season.
It seems to be a fan favorite, both in the real world and here on the surface. So excited to see what it's got in store for us here tonight. Well, as always, we get close to the end of the show. It means it's time for everybody's favorite segment. It's brought to you by our friends over at Logitech, and it is the Tweet Your Rig segment, starting with Joe Martinez from Facebook.
Yeah, look at that. There's a lot of trophies up there. This is a nice corner desk set. Simple desk setup. That's all you need. Maybe is that 24? Maybe a Jeff Gordon, William Byron fan. We don't know, but you can see the pedals are using some items around the home as a backstop. And, I don't see too many cables there. Maybe one or two, but not too bad. I like it. Nice corner setup.
I see a lot of hardware there, too. And we got some more hardware here, too, with Astonished Jack. And, this is another really nice, clean setup that we got here. Triple monitors. They're not the largest monitors, but you're able to kind of squeeze it there in that desk space. This is a very solid one, though. And, again, a lot of trophies that we're seeing. So, illustrious sim racing career that we got here for Astonished. Nice setup here.
Hey, you don't race for the money, you just race for trophies. Look at this nice setup. I don't know if you can guess who the favorite driver is here for Chuck here, but you can see all the die casts up there, and you can see the big 3 down there in the corner. Look at the lighting for the pedals. You can see really the footwork if you really want to get a look at it, but that is a custom-built wood rig. Really, really beautiful, and that's a pretty large seat. Sometimes we see like the racer seats. That's a pretty big one. I don't know if they took that from a car again, guys.
I love the contingencies, the Winston Cup champion banner. There's a lot to like about that one from Chuck. Great job there. This is somebody, Cranges. I've seen him in my Twitch chat a lot, and thanks for sending us your rig on X. A couple of different screenshots we got here, but nice aesthetic here. You got the checkered flag pattern kind of on the wall everywhere. You even got somewhere to throw away a water bottle right next to it. Nice and convenient. So this is a really nice setup here.
I like this. Look at this.
Oh, man.
What that is, that's bigger than a quarter midget, or that's a dirt quarter midget. But this is from Wisconsin. Bill has put the entire car, well, not the front end, but in his kitchen. I mean, that is dedication. We love the dedication here in eNASCAR. Lots of trophies on the shelf, maybe some vinyl collection, but we know what the priority is in Bill's life. And that's what it is all about, is having that in your living room, in your kitchen. What a better way to live.
There's more trophies on the countertop than kitchenware, by the way.
Just imagine being afraid of walking into your house and you see a dirt midget there in the kitchen. You had a Chicago Blackhawks banner there. This
Wisconsin.
is Jake Alcorn here. Another, this is kind of a nice little simple setup. You could almost say, I feel like you got some percussion instruments over here on the side. You got some cymbals that are hung up on the wall. So kind of a big percussionist guy here. So multi-talented sim racers that we got.
Junior fan, like it.
Make sure to use the hashtag eNASCAR and tag us on X and Facebook, and you can join us for that segment every week. Well, we talk Iowa, so let's actually talk Iowa, Blake, and break down this racetrack that joins the calendar for the first time officially this year.
And again, this is one of the last ovals from the Xfinity Series and the Craftsman Truck Series that wasn't in iRacing. They got scanned and put in about 2011 or so. But Newton, Iowa, it's a 0.85-mile track, often referred to as a short track. And I guess for this race, that definition could still hold. But the progressive banking is the one thing about this racetrack that makes it so unique. Less on the bottom, more on the top end of the racetrack. It's going to allow for some great multi-groove racing. And again, this scan doesn't have the new pavement that was just laid down, so the bumps are still there. There's a lot of bumps and characteristics throughout this racetrack, especially the bottom of 1 and 2, the top of 1 and 2. But we'll let Zach Novak take you around and show you all of that.
What's up, everybody? Zach Novak here, driving the number 5 Coca-Cola Zero Sugar Chevrolet for Oxygen Esports. We're at Iowa this week. Let me show you around. coming to start the race here, my approach is just like basically every other race. You know, you want to get in line and just kind of find your rhythm. Here it's definitely important to do that. This track is very rhythm based. You know, rhythm matters a lot. It's a lot like Richmond or really any other short track that you would require a lot of rhythm at. So here, you know, it's very, very important for that. But at the same time, you don't want to take too long to get into that rhythm because of the heat racing we have. So 30 lap heats, I believe, should be enough time to, you know, kind of see comers and goers and make some lap time. But at the same time, short enough to where you can't, as I said, you know, take too much time and, you know, waste anything, I guess. So right here, I'm just kind of trying to settle in a comfortable groove, preferably on the bottom to start the run. That's where you're just going to manage your tires the best and set yourself up for that long run. But with that said, you'll see a lot of movement around the track. One thing that makes Iowa so unique and so special to a lot of drivers. A lot of drivers love this place, including myself, and it's primarily because of the options that we have. You know, drivers love options and being able to kind of move around the track and experiment with lines, which Iowa is one of the best tracks for, especially in 3 and 4. Not so much in 1 and 2. 1 and 2 is a bit more standard when it comes to the line, but I'm sure you will see guys experiment kind of higher up where I am and even further. Appreciate you guys watching. Should be a really good race. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you next week for next week's track preview.
Love a good track with some character. Now, we haven't been there yet officially for a points race, so we're looking at some trends throughout the season. Again, this is the first eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series race at Iowa for points, but remember, as we saw, the All-Star race back in 2019, Nick Ottinger was able to take that on a very big stage, so a huge win for Nick Ottinger back then, especially to get a little practice at Iowa. Iowa is the 33rd different venue to hold a Coke Series race, and it's the first new oval. If you remember, back in 2023, we went to Milwaukee, so it's the first new oval since then. So always nice to add to the schedule, switch it up a little bit for these teams and drivers. 8 teams have won a race so far this year, and get this, 4 of them are new this season. Of course, Spire, M80, Nitro Circus, BS Plus. So all that new talent, all that new teams coming in, it's paying off. They're picking some good drivers, and a lot of talent are getting the checkered flags for them. Steven Wilson has led the most laps in 4 races this year. Las Vegas, Richmond, Brands Hatch, and Charlotte. He's leading the points for a reason. This is his home track, if you will, being an Iowa native. So maybe we'll see something more out of him tonight when he gets some more laps led. We'll have to see. Now, there have been 2 races where the winner has led the most laps this season. Richmond with Steven Wilson, and then Darlington. Just 2 weeks ago when we were at Darlington, Vicente Salas was able to get the lead. Steven led some laps in that, but it was Vicente Salas getting the victory and leading the most laps that night. So will any of those trends continue to the short track with character Iowa tonight? That's what we get to see.
We've spent a good bit of time previewing tonight's race. Now it's time to either show everybody at home that we know what we're talking about or prove otherwise. It's time for picks. Camille is knocking on the door. I know, Alan, 209. I feel like I have to rep Camille since I'm stepping in for her role tonight, so I think that maybe it's going to be a tide turning, but that's how they look coming into this one. Blake, I don't know what to tell you, but let's take a look, and we'll start, I think, with Camille's pick on this one. Are we going, Blake, you going first? Blake from the bottom, so go for it.
Yeah, I guess losers go first. But you know what? I believe in one man to turn around the trend tonight. He's great at tracks like this, New Hampshire, Richmond, going to these new facilities. Think he's picking up some momentum after nearly winning at Charlotte. I'm going with Jimmy Mullis tonight. He's going to be an inaugural winner at Iowa.
All right, not bad. But for me to be in the lead, it's been one of the biggest comebacks in sports history, and it continues now. I'm just going to extend the lead because Steven Wilson is getting the win. All this guy does is win, and now we're bringing him to his home track for a points-paying race. Are you kidding me? He might lead every lap tonight, guys.
I could just go ahead and pick Steven for Camille too. So if you want to just roll, roll the B-roll, it's
Speaking
probably
of
Steven.
which, the little birdie mower tells me that Camille is also Gonna go for Steven Wilson, two-time race winner this
Shocker.
year. So we do know one thing: the gap between Camille and Alan will stay fixed. The question is, Blake, do you make up ground on them or do you lose? Because they are tied together. Those are the picks for tonight's race. We appreciate all of you for tuning in early and joining us on Countdown to Green, presented by eNASCAR. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside. When we come back, we'll say let's go racing for round number 10 on the other side.
Every time you sit behind the wheel, you buckle up for the unexpected. You get ready to take on the competition and brace yourself for the chaos, the speed, the weather, the unknown. But above all, when strapping in, you put trust in yourself, your intuition, making your guide to win, your drive to win. He's a winner in this. And nothing is going to stop you from winning.
This is the make or break moment.
Oh my goodness!
Not just for the day, but for the years to come. This is where a race isn't just about the race. It's about the doors it can open.
That kid is amazing.
The number of fans wearing your number. This is the chance to carve your name into the history books. This is the NASCAR Xfinity Series.
I believe in something that I can't explain. The wind is calling out my name. Let it rain on me. You know I put in the hours, and I'm not gonna wait in line. I'm gonna take what's mine for the world to see. You gotta take the lead. You gotta feel the fire. That's all I see, and I still believe. You gotta take the lead. Take the lead, take the lead, take the lead.
To $500,000 kicks off segment number 3 with a first-time trip to the Hawkeye State. From Iowa's virtual Iowa Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans. This is round number 10 of the 2024 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. And after some 4 or 5 years since that All-Star Invitational, NBC Sports iRacing's best are back, this time with points on the line. My name is Evan Pasoko, alongside with Blake McCandless. Happy to have you with us. And Blake, also not only the start of a new segment, but the heat format back tonight as well.
Well, and that's going to change things up here a little bit tonight. Again, you're going to be able to pretty much go an entire fuel run once we get to the feature race. So this heat race, 30 laps, short amount of time to get it done. Hopefully you put in a good qualifying lap, because it's going to be difficult to try to make those spots up, and you're going to have to get aggressive to do it. But here at Iowa, there are multiple lanes to be able to make it happen.
Feels weird to say old Iowa Speedway with a new repave for the upcoming race this weekend, but it is ready to play host tonight. First with heat race number 1, because qualifying has already drawn to a close. We will split the field of 40 up into 2, and we will race for qualifying order for the feature race and bonus points to the drivers in the top 10 for both to kick this one off. So it's going to be an exciting start to this one as we're about set to get underway.
For the 2024 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, we're bringing you a new heat racing format for each short track round of the season. Taking its inspiration from the duels at Daytona or your local short track, 2 heat races will precede the feature race, but all will take place in one night of racing. Heat Race 1 will take every driver qualified on the inside row or the odd positions, and they will race for their starting position on the inside row of the feature. In Heat Race 2, every driver qualified in the even positions or the outside row will race for their starting position on the outside row of the feature. In both races, the top 10 drivers of each heat will score points according to their finishing position, in addition to the points that all drivers will score in the feature. Finally, we put the field back together for the feature race, and we go racing one final time on the night. Drivers will have to be aggressive, but still keep it clean if they want to finish in the heat points and have a good starting spot for the feature race.
Let's introduce you to the competitors and take a look at your Coca-Cola starting grid for heat race number 1. Steven Wilson was best in single car qualifying. His M80 number 10 starts from pole, and third best qualifier Parker White in the Williams Esports 53 will be given P2. We continue with your odd number to qualifiers. Inside row number 2, the Williams Esports 51 of Donovan Strauss and the M80 80 of Ryan Lewis. It is an M80 and Williams lockout of the front 2 rows. Row number 3, the Joe Gibbs Racing 54 of Daniel Funkingham and Travis Pastrana's Nitro Circus Sim Racing Team 41 of Dylan Duval. Back on row number 4, the Oxygen Esports number 5 of Zach Novak to be paired with the second of those Nitro Circus Sim Racing team cars, that one the 99 of Matthew Zawak. And rounding out your top 10, row number 5, the Joe Gibbs Racing 18 of Bobby Zelensky and the Spire Motorsports number 7 of Malik Ray.
Back in row 6, you'll find Tucker Minter for William Byron's Esports and the number 12 FGR Excel, represented by Garrett Maines in the 12th position. Back at 13th, you'll see the number 3 for Team Dillon Esports. That's Jonathan Dulaney and Nick Ottinger making his way up from 14th, and number 25 for William Byron Esports. Rolling off 15th tonight in heat race number 1, Ryan Doucette for the Pittsburgh Knights with Kwame Scott representing Letarte Esports back in the 16th position. 17th goes to the 4-time champion Ray Alfala for E-Racer, and the other Pittsburgh Knights entry a row behind his teammate, that is Cody Bias. Back in row 10, rounding out this heat race grid is the 34 of Derek Bordeaux for Front Row Motorsports, and Jimmy Mullis going to have to do some work here to make up some spots, and I certainly hope for my picks he's able to do it for KHI from the 20th position. But Steven Wilson, the hometown hero, man up front, is starting up front here for this heat race for 30 laps. And Steven, I'm sure it's pretty clear you're just going to have to go all out, but how are you feeling so far about through practice and qualifying now that you're starting up front? How are you feeling about your car tonight?
Yeah, pretty excited obviously up front. Super pumped for the home race, hopefully the Hawkeye State luck is on my side tonight. Hopefully we'll make pit road in the feature if we have to do that. That's the first goal, make it into the pit box, but speed is good right now on the pole again, so I think we can hopefully hold them off in the heat. We got to get clear Parker here and then just kind of cruise around and see what we got.
All right, Steve, we'll let you get after it. Again, best wishes to you. I know this race means a lot to Steven Wilson, Evan, with the fact
Go
that,
Hawks.
yes, it is go Hawks, exactly right. So, and Evan, I'm sure it's a great situation where if you're somebody like Steven Wilson, this is kind of a hometown track for you. It's where you're from, but it also, I think it happens to work out that he's very talented at this racetrack. So kind of a double whammy, I think, for Steven Wilson tonight.
Really is, and a lot of people seemingly are better at their home track, and I don't know if there's a science behind it, if it's your home track so you just enjoy driving it more on the service. Certainly you get to the pro level like this, and these guys have got hundreds and thousands of laps at all these different tracks, but it would really be a good story here in heat race number 1 on tonight's program if Steven Wilson could continue that up. He's already got 3 pole positions on the year. A statistician is going to have to tell me if the P1 in single car qualifying or the winner of heat 1 gets the official title, I guess, a pole sitter for the record books, but Wilson's already got 3 on the year, looking, if not already, have he made it 4. Well, lights out on the pace car as we get set for a 30-lap sprint, points on the line, and no cautions to fall back on. Pace car down and in, Wilson and White on the front row, green flag in heat race number 1.
Mentioned from Steven Wilson how important it was going to be to just get clear of Parker White into turn 1 and 2. Well, that's exactly what he's able to do. He has the lead and now has control of whichever lane he wants to run. And they're gridlocked further on back 2x2 throughout the rest of the field.
You see the Williams Esports machine side by side. Parker White topside, going to get the upper hand on his teammate Donovan Strauss for the moment. He'll slide down in front, so they will settle out second and third position. And then it is the SeatGeek 80 car, Ryan Luza, looking to stay P4. With Daniel Falkenham drives up the inside. You see the JGR cars and the Interstate Battery colors on the inside of the racetrack.
I'm really curious to see which of these lanes pan out, especially in turns 3 and 4. If you're an iRacing member, pretty much regardless of the car that you're running, whether it's this next gen or the truck or anything else that's here at Iowa this week, you well know that that top side in 3 and 4 is one of those lanes that if you're looking for short run speed, you're going to go out there and try to make it. It can be difficult at times to make a pass on the inside here in 3 and 4. So curious to see here Wilson in control of this field, exactly which lane he tries to run, and the fact that, well, Evan, you're not really having to worry about tire wear and tire saving here through this heat race format. It's all about getting everything you can in these first 30 laps.
And on board with Tucker Minter, the 97 car, 9th at the stripe, did a good job of hanging even with the 99 cars. A whack to his outside in 1 and 2, but as they come through 3 and 4, that top side he mentioned may be the better place to be. The 99 going to pull alongside, and in fact in front of Minter, the 5 of Novak used the outside to clear Zelensky at a battle for 7th and 8th spot, and he will tuck back in line and try to cycle things back out. Not a lot of time to make up some spots. Kwame Scott slipped back a little bit, started 16th position. He's in 18th right now as you take a live look with his Sunoco Chevrolet, sticking with that Iowa theme. He's got the corn on that Chevy.
I was about to say, definitely fitting here coming out to Iowa. And as you mentioned, Kwame Scott, you can even see the detail. Yeah, you can see the kernels of corn there on the hood. So a great job by Cosmin Ayanashu and everybody at Latardi Sports. They always have some great looking race cars, but unfortunately going to have to try and get this work done very quickly. Already 7 laps into this one, and you're not really looking at this point, I don't think, Evan, to try and point your way into a points paying position for this heat, but certainly trying to, even if you can get 3, 4, maybe 5 spots to try and improve your starting position for the 90 lap feature. That's certainly what the game plan is for Kwame Scott, and I'm sure the rest of those drivers that are kind of mired back in the field.
You've seen a couple of looks at some side-by-side action. That first one was Zelensky and Minter for 8th and 9th. This battle here, the 80 of Luza to the outside of the 54 of Falkenham for 4th and 5th spot, and Duval is hounding them. He's all over the bumper. There have been no changes for position inside of the top 7. Everybody runs exactly where they started this battle, though. Poses an opportunity to change that because that time at the stripe, Duval ahead of Falkenham, Ken, the Nitro Circus Ford, clear for that spot on the outside.
And this is where it gets really tough if you're in Daniel Falkingham's position, that you can kind of get trapped there on the inside. Duval's able to make up the spot, utilizing that top groove in 1 and 2. But now Novak, he has been very good so far early in this race, kind of using that second lane. He's probably the first one that we saw in that Wendy's Chevrolet to kind of go up to the 3rd lane early on. And, you know, if I'm Novak, I'm going to keep doing it. Run where they're not. Get some clean air. Keep that momentum rolling and see if you can continue to make up some spots, because for him, it's certainly paying off for now.
When he was up against the wall, the thought popped into my mind on watching where that safer barrier transitions off of the concrete wall, but that's not a thing here at Iowa Speedway. It is all safer all the way around. That is the primary and only wall. There's no concrete wall behind it, so those corner exit dynamics a little bit different here than they are at almost all of the other racetracks on the calendar, where there is a clear transition point where those safer walls were added after the concrete wall was the primary one when the track was built. Not the case here at Iowa. Let's take a look at the Williams Esports teammates. It's still Parker White in second, Donovan Strauss in third. All trying to chase down Steven Wilson. White only about a car length and change off. That onboard perspective topside is with Strauss in P3.
And three drivers that have really come into their own here in 2024. Parker White improving vastly over what was already a really strong rookie season, and Donovan Strauss really finding his footing here in 2024. Both the Williams Esports cars have been very, very fast each of the last two seasons and have only gotten better. And I feel like, you know, we talk a lot about Steven Wilson and the job that he's been able to do. Parker White has essentially been running right with Steven Wilson nearly everywhere that we've gone. His performance has nearly matched it, just hasn't gotten that win yet, as we see a lot of drivers starting to move around as we reach the halfway point of this heat. You know, Evan, that's one thing I was kind of talking to some of these guys about after the Richmond race, was how much does the track change? Is there a noticeable difference between Heat 1 and Heat 2? And the answer I got from Michael Cozy Jr. was a resounding yes. He ran in Heat 1 at Richmond. You can remember he got the pole. He ended up winning that heat. But then when he came back out for the feature race, he said he couldn't believe how much different the track was. So even these drivers that aren't a part of Heat 1, that are in Heat 2, that are, I'm sure, watching this race, they're looking to see, is there anything in this track that's going to change? Is there a lane where we're going to find some grip here in Heat 2? Because the track is going to go through a shift here with all these cars running on it right now.
And one thing we had observed, and you pointed it out when we took a look at it in practice, is things were overcast and maybe a little bit cool. Not the case now that we're racing. It's about mid-afternoon, just past 3 p.m. in sim time. We're looking at 117-degree track temperature with a lot of sun beating down on the surface as we sit now. Halfway through this first heat, though, with 15 down and 15 to go. No major issues to report on. Kwame Scott has fallen all the way down to the bottom of the scoring pylon. You can see him way down at the bottom. Had some sort of an issue, slipped up, still on track. Everybody else much more within a reasonable striking distance of everybody else. So a pretty clean get-go to the start here of heat race number 1. And again, with the exception of that pass with Duval moving up, not a lot of movement ahead of them. Your top 4 all still sit where they started. Tucker Minter has made some moves, though. Give a shout out to the 97. He's up 4 spots to P7, Blake.
Seems like Tucker Minter's always able to make some moves, even if he's not in a great position to start out. He's somebody who can just methodically work his way through a lot of different situations, whether it's kind of the point situation that he's coming back from, and he's been able to find himself at the top end of the standings after a tough start here in 2024, but certainly a car that I think you get about 15 laps in. This is where you're going to see the drivers that really have a good long-run car and whether they're able to showcase it. And Minter right now able to kind of cut down to the bottom, getting a little bit of clean air. Novak is kind of stalled out. We saw him making some moves on the high side a little bit earlier. And right now, well, he's going to peek to the inside of Duval for 5th, and he may have it in 3 and 4.
I got real tight that time as Novak tries to make the move in the Wendy's and Coca-Cola freestyle machine. Let's jump on board with them. This is the Coca-Cola onboard camera. Doing his best to make the move on the bottom, but the 41, resilient as ever, Duval still playing defense as he defends P5. Meanwhile, up front, Parker White searching a little bit of a higher line that time in 3 to 4. Doing everything he can to find a gap, but Steven Wilson has not opened that door yet. Now inside of 9 laps to go.
And if you're Parker White, I feel like you're really confident in the car that you have right now. That, yes, kind of talking to these drivers, that bottom lane is going to be the one that saves your tires a little bit. But the fact that he's been kind of running in lockstep with Steven Wilson in that dirty air, but still thinks he may have something here at the end for him. Again, that gap has been about 1/10.5 the entire race. So Parker White, despite being in some dirty air, he may still have something, I think, for Steven Wilson here. You could see Wilson's response in 3 and 4. That is, you mentioned Parker White trying to search a little bit, maybe get a little bit higher in turn 2. You could see Wilson slowly kind of drifting up his line, kind of in a Ross Chastain style to air block and kind of give some dirty air to the 53. So, again, 7 laps to go, but Parker White, if he's this close, he's got a shot to try and make something happen.
And there's battling going on all throughout the field. Every spot worth 2 positions in the starting order for tonight's feature. Every spot here going to determine the inside. So first gets first, second gets third, so on and so forth. So it's 2 points per pass. That's why the guys back here, Bordeaux, Delaney, and company, continue to fight aggressively. So do those drivers up towards the front as Minter again going to do battle with the 41 of Duval. This one is for P6.
And again, you can see the gap. Novak and Duval were battling just a couple of laps ago. Now Novak has gotten well clear of Dylan Duval. So a little bit of a stack up, something happening here, just kind of outside the top 5. And right now, Duval may be struggling a little bit, but can make life difficult on that car on the inside. As you can see, Minter not quite able to get clear off of 2, but this is another thing we'll be talking about at Iowa throughout the night, a slide job, and I wouldn't be shocked if we saw it here at 3 and 4. If Minter can just drive in, get up to the top side, and he's able to do it there, is going to be able to make up that spot on Dylan Duval. And then here comes Daniel Falkingham to try and keep the bleeding going for that number 41 car.
The quick onboard look there off of the back, and now looking forward on Dylan Duval's machine. You can see the challenge. Falkingham to the inside. Bit of a close call that time as Duval almost, if not maybe, getting a little bit of the fence on exit. This time by coming to 3 laps to go. Sideways off of 4 was Dylan Duval doing everything he can to fight. Again, bonus points also paying out to the drivers inside of the top 10. He loses the spot to Falkingham. Not done yet. Now Zelensky goes to the inside.
Yeah, you can see on that onboard shot that we had of Duval, you could get a sense that he wasn't turning a lot into the corner, so he is battling a really loose race car. And unfortunately at Iowa, that's just a really tough condition because you're pretty much drifting around the entire corner and just trying all he can to hang on right now. It's tough. You can see him kind of sliding the back end, having to be really patient on when to get back to the throttle. And you have to imagine, again, this is 2 spots every single position he gives up, so he's going to try to hold off Matthew Zwack. He's got Garrett Baines in the wings waiting right behind him. He'll at least try to hold on for one more lap, but right now you can see that Nitro Circus 41 just hanging on, trying to get to lap 30.
He falls to P10. That's the last spot with a bonus point. If Maines gets around him, he'll be out of that. But up front, Wilson extended his lead in the last couple of laps. He's got plenty of real estate in his favor. And off of turn 4, the hometown kid, perfect in heat race number 1. Steven Wilson locks in pole for tonight's feature and cashes in 10 bonus points in the championship. Final couple of cars trickle across the line. We take a look, and those are your top 10 finishers that will represent the insides of rows 1 through 10. So Wilson with the win secures pole position, and the Williams Esports Chevrolets hang on for 2nd and 3rd with White and Strauss. Lose a 4th, Novak 5th. That'll translate to an 8th, or a 7th and 9th, they should say, on the grid for the race. And Dylan Duval slides out of the bonus points. He'll end up P11 in the heat race number 1, I should say.
Yeah, and think about these points that we're paying out as if we're running stages here in these heat races. 10 points to the winner of this heat race. So Steven Wilson has the opportunity to get 50 points here tonight. He secured 10 of them already. And, well, Steven, after 30 laps, you're up front still. So a good opening here to this hometown race here for you. How you feeling after those 30 laps about what you may see in 90 laps later tonight?
Yeah, hey again. I felt pretty good, to be honest. I was just kind of cruising there for about 20 or so laps, just to kind of keep the gap at a couple of tenths, just so I'm not over abusing the tires compared to them, and then kind of just pushed it a little bit more there at the end, just to know what kind of grip levels I had in case I need to do that in the future. But the track is pretty gripped up right now, honestly. I think the bottom and middle and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 are both usable. In the fence, in 3 and 4, maybe it'll come in later, but it wasn't really for me there, but I haven't really been testing that line. So I feel good personally. We'll watch the second heat here and see what action unfolds, and then hopefully the feature goes smooth.
Yeah, I know you got some teammates in this next one. We'll see if that track changes, but we'll let you enjoy the 10 points and see if you can't get 40 more after 90 laps tonight. Good luck.
Thank you.
It's a race winner from heat race number 1. Now we rack them up and do it all over again, this time for the drivers who qualified in the evened numbered positions. And how about a lockup on the front row for the Pioneers? Graham Bolin and Wyatt Tinsley going to be first and second. They make up row number 1 here in heat race number 2. And another one. Why not continue with the lockouts? It's an all Tony Kanani Sports row number 2. Colin Keister in the 66 and Vicente Salas in the 11 car. No, we don't get another one for row number 3. This time it's the Kevin Harvick Inc. 62 of Matt Busa and the Latardi Sports number 40 of Dylan Alt. They are going to start in P5 and 6. The Ferrari Motorsports 38 of Michael Cozy Jr. going to be alongside the BS Competition 89 of Garrett Lowe on row number 4. And on row 5, it is the FGRXL E-Racer to 14 of Seth the Merchant and the E-Racer 42 of Tyler Gary.
Looking to get some points in this one for BS Plus competition. Jordy Lopez goes from 11th with Taylor Hurst for Team Dillon Esports, the number 33, starting in the 12th position. It's not a lockout, even though the graphics would make you think so. Similar colors there for RFK Racing and Oxygen Esports, represented by Colin Bowden and Femi Olatunbosun, respectively. Back at 15th for Junior Motorsports, it's Briar LaPrade, along with Spire Motorsports' own Casey Kerwin in the 16th position. It is a 23-11 lockout of row 9 here in heat race number 2. Keegan Leahy and Michael Guest going from 17th and the 18th spots respectively. And then Caden Honeycutt along with Timmy Holmes for Junior Motorsports and for RFK Racing will try to make up a couple of positions here in this second of our 2 30-lap heats tonight. But we turn things over to Graham Bolin. Definitely needs a run like this here tonight. Graham, you start up front, or you think you're confident that you're able to repeat what you saw out of Steven Wilson there in heat race number 1?
Yep. I'm trying to go for the dub today, so we need all the points we can get, but I'm trying to make the playoffs, so I just have to get this win in this heat race and then try to go for the dub in the future.
All right, Graham Bolin looking to try and go back to the postseason. And 10 points, I think, would go a long way to helping him get up to that top 20 marker and hopefully getting that win to put him in the postseason, Evan.
Hey, Graham, coming into tonight on the bubble where a win would count towards eligibility. He sits 20th in the standings coming into tonight. Again, we take a look at the schedule on tonight's race program, getting set for heat race number 2. The finishing positions in this heat will determine the outside rows for the main event. That's going to be 2nd, 4th, 6th, so on and so forth. And then our 90-lap feature race where full race points payout is coming up just on the other side of that. I think the biggest movers we saw in heat race number 1, a couple of cars up 4 spots, maybe 5. I think the biggest mover, Mullis, might have gotten 6, so there was not a ton of movement. That also included no movement inside of the top 4. Wilson led green to checker. That would be a good indication if Graham Bolin would be able to do the same. Let's take a look back at some of the highlights from that first heat race.
Again, pretty orderly here as drivers were jockeying for position, running the low lane, running the second lane, trying to find out exactly where their cars would work. This was a spin with Kwame Scott just about a lap or 2 after we were discussing he and his 36 Chevrolet. He'll have to start from the 39th position, but Zach Novak, kind of one of the movers that we were talking about, Evan, who really had a fast car. You could say the same out of the JGR Toyotas. They may have something to say for this man, Steven Wilson, who led flag to flag in this one.
He was perfect so far, and now Graham Boland looking to go out there and back up his qualifying time of a 24.310. That was second best in single car qualifying. That's how he got the top spot here for heat race number 2. So what's that? 3 lockouts in terms of teams taking the rows tonight. It's going to be a front row of all Kansas City Pioneers, and it is row number 2 of all Cut-On Esports cars with Keister and Salas. Another 30 laps on deck. No yellows to set the outside for the feature race. Green flag in the air in heat race number 2.
Somebody ducking out of line. That is Michael Cozy Jr. looking to the inside of Matt Busa. Remember, he was a heat race winner at Richmond earlier this year, and he's going to be able to get the spot on Dylan Alt. You talked about the fact that we had a couple of Kansas City Pioneer cars up front. Both of those drivers in a position where they need some of these bonus points. You mentioned Graham Boland is on that cut line, and right now Wyatt Tinsley, remember his win back at Daytona, doesn't lock him into the playoffs right now because he's 22nd in points. So even just 9 tonight will go a long ways for him. As Keister and Salas, the 2 teammates, going to spin down to the inside in turn 3. Again, with this heat race format, no yellows here as they both spun to the inside, but Tony Kanaan Esports lock out of row 2, but it looks like they may lock out the last row in the feature.
Is a tough break for the team cars. Keister apologizing over the radio, taking blame for the incident. Both of those cars able to continue in this race, but you can see they dropped down to 19th and 20th. That would not be a good spot for them in the main. Meanwhile, middle of the top 10, nearly 3 wide that time through the corner, as there's a whole lot of funning going on. The start of heat race number 2, much more scrappy than what we saw in heat race 1.
And again, that's such an easy mistake to make. It's, Keister kind of just drifts over to the right. These cars on cold tires can be really snappy, and especially here at Iowa, you're coming off the bank into turn 2. You have a lot of bumps kind of on the outside of turns 1 and 2. He got just a little bit of attack. There may have been some contact with Busa or with Tinsley, one of those cars there, as he got off the corner, and Colin Bowden, he had a big save as well as he tried to gather it up. And unfortunately, Graham Boland, you can kind of see the ticker kind of moving around a little bit. I think he had an internet issue for just a moment, but we see his car back running. And again, the last thing he needs is something to happen like that to take away an opportunity for him to gather 10 points.
You see it again there for a moment, but he is leading this race. That time it in scoring will cycle through an update once more. Tinsley is still second, and there it is on the left-hand side, corrected once more, but that could certainly be a concern for Boland if those issues persist for him. Not affecting anybody else, just an issue isolated to the 48 car right now. As you see the 42 with Tyler Gary doing battle. At 33 top side is Taylor Hurst. The 33 car was kind of way up in that 3rd lane, the Novak lane maybe, if you will, if you recall from him being up top in heat race number 1, but he's kind of locked back into that middle of the road outer lane at the moment. This fight is for P10.
Again, it wouldn't be the first issue that Boland has had this year with a connection, but looks like for now it's solid, and he's able to keep fighting. As Tyler Gary, saw him a couple of times in our Darlington highlights, sideways a few times throughout the running of that race, and one of the few drivers back here. We mentioned how this track would change, Evan, and it looks like plenty more drivers that are kind of running that 2nd lane in 3 and 4, perhaps listening to some of the comments that Wilson gave us after the running of heat race number 1. You're starting to see, especially in 3 and 4, a lot of those drivers start to move up. Not quite all the way to the wall yet, and I doubt you'll see it in 1 and 2 with some of the bumps. This next-gen car really doesn't seem to like it that much, but especially here in 3 and 4, you can already see drivers running pretty much every lane until they get up to the wall here in a couple of laps.
You're already working lap number 10 in this heat race. Not a huge amount of shuffling on the front few rows, but definitely more than we saw in heat race number 1, as around that 40 of Dylan Alt is where you see the 89 of Machina Garrett Lowe trying to clear on the bottom. Hurst is still way up on the top side, and this is the battle for P2. Boland has a bit of a comfortable gap as the race leader. It's about a 4-car length advantage to his teammate Wyatt Tinsley. But then Matt Busa, all the cars on the inside with the issues on the restart has really benefited the cars down low. Busa started 5th. He's up to 3rd. Cozy 7th, up to 4th. Merchant from 9th to 5th. Lopez 11th to 6th. I mean, all the cars who made passes, Blake, were on the inside for the initial green flag.
It's a good point to kind of hopefully be watching a little bit later on in the night. Cozy being one of those drivers as well that we saw him kind of duck out of line early, made it 3 wide, and it's paying dividends for him now. If anything, he's running lap times that are just about matching your race leaders right now. And, you know, this is somebody that I think really takes to these short tracks quite well. He's pretty vocal about the fact that the more Richmonds, the more Martinsvilles, Bristols that are on the schedule, it's going to play in his favor. Went out to Richmond, won a heat race, and arguably had a car that should have won that race. And I think here at Iowa, he was really excited to get to this one and see how it would play out. And he's already made up a number of spots early on in this run, kind of proven that to be true. And going to be one of the first drivers to venture out to 1 and 2. And you also heard something else there that we haven't heard on all of the onboards that we've had here tonight, is whether drivers are shifting or not. That was a big question, I think, coming into tonight was, were drivers going to be staying in 4th gear, staying in 5th gear, or going to be going back and forth? And Cozy, one of the few that I've heard that is definitely going back and forth. You can hear on entry, boom, downshift. And we didn't hear that earlier out of Zach Novak.
On board with Matt Busa, now looking back to Michael Cozy Jr. These cars occupying 3rd and 4th respectively as they run. You can see some shuffling up, maybe 4 or 5 spots back in the order. Those are a lot of the cars that we've been talking about a lot already. The Lowe's, the Alts, the Hursts, they are kind of all in a battle every time we seem to look at them. And sounds like maybe Busa doing the same as he drops off into the inside of turns 1 and 2. Going to be halfway through that last time by. 15 down, 15 to go. We check in for the first time at the gate of Caden Honeycutt, who's one of the biggest movers. He's up 7 spots. Looking for a little bit more, but it's on his teammate, the 88 of Brian LaPrade.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with Caden Honeycutt so far earlier in this race. In really bad track position, got a lot of dirty air. Of course, he was able to make up 2 spots when the Tony Kanaan Esports driver spun, but nevertheless, still able to pass 6 or 7 cars or so, even starting in the back of the field. So somebody that, again, it's so hard at this level when you have these guys that are so fast, they race really well, and, you know, they put so much time and effort into the race trim, but so much of your success in the series comes down to where you qualify and having good track position. And we can see that number 8 car, he may very well be one of the fastest that we have here throughout the running of the night, but just starting off behind the 8 ball is just one of those things that is so difficult, and you can hardly afford to do in this series with how close and competitive everybody is.
Tyler Gary got used up a little bit there, but the 45 of Gas getting feisty as well in the battle for 13th and 14th. Just behind him, Keegan Leahy's Logitech machine runs at 18th. Let's jump on board with the Logitech G on board camera. And speaking of Logitech, not only are they a partner with Keegan Leahy and that 2311 racing team, but also a pretty big partner with William Byron Esports team in the series. And excited to announce, much like the news has been in the NASCAR Cup Series with the kind of in-season tournament bracket challenge coming on the near horizon, that the same thing's going to be going on here in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series with the William Byron Esports Bracket Challenge presented by Logitech G. It's a bracket challenge where the top 32 drivers will be paired up based on championship point standings as they enter race number 12 at Chicago. It all starts for that race on July the 2nd. It'll go for 5 races, Chicago through Texas. ending in the Lone Star State on August 27th. If you want to enter, go to williambyron.com for details on how to and ultimately what you'll win. Everybody enjoys some bragging rights with some prizes on the line. Never hurt either. Contested entries will be accepted starting on June 27th, so we'll remind you when it gets down to that period. And again, it all starts in Chicago, Blake, on July 2nd.
And again, I need that because my Denny Hamlin bracket not doing so well.
Busted already?
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody's was kind of busted at the very beginning. It was tough. Gateway was tough, and then Sonoma, you had Hamlin go out early. So, yeah, that's pretty bad. But I don't know if I've seen anybody as intense right now as Michael Guest. We've seen a lot of 3. We've seen a lot of 4 wide. He's wheeling it. He's sliding that car around. But, man, Michael Guest, he is racing his guts out to try and make up a couple of spots. And, again, this is right outside the top 10. It's a difference between 4 or 6 positions every single corner in terms of where they may start for the feature. But, man, Michael Guest looks determined to try and make up a couple spots here.
3 wide, center of the corner, in the middle of it all, the number 42 machine trying to find a gap again. Tyler Carey's been in some awfully precarious positions tonight. It was Guest squeezing him topside once more. Those two have had a couple of close run-ins, and now Guest slides up in front of the nose on Hurst. 3 wide behind as Gary going to punch back looking to the inside.
Talked about that we may be seeing slide jobs here, and you definitely saw it there out of Michael Guest, again battling for that 12th position. Femi Olatunbosun just a little ways up the road, but this may be enough here with 5 laps to go. This is the battle for 5th. Jordy Lopez Jr., Seth the Merchant, a couple of good friends, as well as Garrett Lowe, who's kind of broken away from Dylan Alt in that 8th position. So Lowe trying to get up into the top 5, get a few more points here before this one's said and done.
So battles going on all throughout the field. Remember, every position in the finishing order here is worth 2 in the starting grid for the feature race. That battle for 5th may be a little bit sweeter because there are bonus points on the line amongst those drivers, as well as it looks like the 90 of Jordy going to get ahead of DeMerchant and ahead of Lowe for the time being. Up front, though, that 40 car of Dylan Alt. So we talk about some drivers who have been slipping and sliding a little bit. He's dropped 2 spots from the get-go. And Brian LaPrat has been on a tear tonight, up 6 spots, has got him in his sights. But I don't know if there's going to be enough time coming to 2 laps to go this time by.
And again, kind of lost those spots initially right when that move was made up front. Cozy was able to kind of get the better end of that. But Alt right now just kind of fighting a little bit loose, but going up to that 2nd lane should be enough here in the last 2 laps to fend off Briar LaPrat and get a couple of points, because, man, both those Atari esports cars, they have been struggling here in 2024 so far.
And white flag is in the air now for race leader Graham Bolin. A couple of positions may still be up for grabs. Up front, though, that 48 car has checked on out. 0.8 of a second clear. And for the 2nd heat race in a row, it's going to be picture perfect from pole. Graham Bolin going to lead every single lap. He wins heat race 2, locks in P2 on the grid for the feature race. Coming up next, he will join heat race number 1 winner Stephen Wilson on the front row. Bolin and Tinsley, a 1-2 result for the Kansas City Pioneers. A great showing for the 20 and the 48 cars. And they're able to translate those into results. They'll also secure 10 and 9 bonus points for their Toyotas as you take a look at those race results. Again, this will grid up the drivers for the outside row, or the even-numbered positions for the feature. And not only is it a good showing for the Pioneers, but how about PS competition with Jordy Lopez and Garrett Lowe in 5th and 6th.
And Matt Busa Cozy, also some solid points for them as well. Seth the Merchant kind of hung on to a top 5 spot and lost it there late. But how about Caden Honeycutt? When you look at the tail end of this field, that is the story of this heat race, coming up and nearly making up 10 positions from the start in 30 laps. That's awfully impressive and going to help his night significantly. And then the Tony Kanaan esports cars, what could have been had they avoided each other, racing for that 3rd position, getting loose and spinning down to the inside. That is going to be tough for them to try and climb out of that hole for just 90 laps tonight. But Graham Boland, just like we saw out of Steven Wilson, comes here in Heat 2, right on the cut line for the top 20 in the points, and you're able to secure 10. How are you going to be able to secure 40 and perhaps another victory later on for 90 laps?
I think we're just going to be racing hard, trying to get clean air. Track position's really big. Like I went hard short run, and I was still able to like pull a little bit long run. So you can like clean air is pretty important, but I have a good feeling about my pace, so I'll just figure it out in the actual race.
As far as approaching these next 90 laps, I know you guys are kind of looking at a much different approach than a kind of a 30-lap sprint here. So I know you mentioned the short run speed you have, but does that play into mind when you might be going 90 laps on a run here? Because I'm pretty sure y'all are good on fuel here in this race, aren't you?
Yep. So like we're good on fuel, so we're gonna have to make these tires stretch if it's gonna go green all the way. So you're gonna see some people like that are gonna push for track position, and you're also gonna see some people backing it down to have like tires at the end because Iowa destroys tires. So yeah, it'll be interesting for sure.
All right, so a balance of strategy and speed going to be the key for Graham Boland, and I think the rest of the 39 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series drivers. But Boland at the top of the heap here in heat race number 2 secures 10 points and look to do one better here on a good friend of his and Steven Wilson later on tonight.
So 2 heats down, 2 perfect nights. Race winners so far on the evening, Steven Wilson and Graham Boland. They're going to line up on the front row. The feature race is next from Iowa. You're watching round number 10 of the 2024 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series.
Every time you sit behind the wheel, you buckle up for the unexpected. You get ready to take on the competition and brace yourself for the chaos, the speed, the weather, the unknown. But above all, when strapping in, you put trust in yourself, your intuition, making your guide to win, your drive to win. He's a winner in this. And nothing is going to stop you from winning.
When you want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. For anything on iRacing, there's just one name you need, Makoni.
We now provide the best of the best in setups, paint schemes, coaching, broadcasting, and event organization.
With cars across all 4 license classes, we have what you need to hit the track with confidence. Grab a subscription and save money while going fast at McConeySetupShop.com/subscriptions.
And remember, at McConey Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
Well, what do we have here? He is back. A come down or a comeback? A risk taker or a troublemaker? A lucky run, or that's how it's done. Great job, 5 team. Surprise, surprise. 1, 2, 3, finish. Or seen it coming. A trophy hunter or a party crasher? What if it was all that and a whole lot more?
Back live at Iowa, where coverage of tonight's race is brought to you by Coca-Cola and Wendy's. Order your favorite driver's favorite freestyle drink tonight with the Wendy's app and get $0 delivery fee with a $15 minimum order with the in-app offer. By Logitech G. Through design, engineering, and a love of driving games, Logitech G takes racing simulation to another level. Logitech G, the official wheel and pedals of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. by Makoni Setup Shop. Our setups, your victories. And by Sunoco. From fueling your favorite NASCAR teams to filling up at the pump, Sunoco is trusted to help vehicles perform at their peak. Sunoco, performance is what we do. We are 2 heat races down with a feature race on deck. Let's take another look at the unique format for tonight's race.
For the 2024 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, we're bringing you a new heat racing format for each short track round of the season. Taking its inspiration from the duels at Daytona or your local short track, 2 heat races will precede the feature race, but all will take place in one night of racing. Heat Race 1 will take every driver qualified on the inside row or the odd positions, and they will race for their starting position on the inside row of the feature. In Heat Race 2, every driver qualified in the even positions or the outside row will race for their starting position on the outside row of the feature. In both races, the top 10 drivers of each heat will score points according to their finishing position, in addition to the points that all drivers will score in the feature. Finally, we put the field back together for the feature race, and we go racing one final time on the night. Drivers will have to be aggressive, but still keep it clean if they want to finish in the heat points and have a good starting spot for the feature race.
And the field has been put back together. Let's take a look at your Coca-Cola starting grid for tonight's feature, and it is led by your heat race winners, the M80 number 10 of Steven Wilson and the Pioneers number 48 of Graham Bolin on the front row. They were both perfect in their heats. It is the Williams Esports 53 of Parker White, and the second of the Pioneers entries, the 20 of Wyatt Tinsley on the outside of row number 2. Row number 3, you're going to see the second Williams Esports car. That's the 51 of Donovan Strauss, and the Kevin Harvick Incorporated 62 of Matt Busa. On row number 4, inside, the M80-80 of Ryan Luza, and on the outside, the Front Row Motorsports 38 of Michael Cozy Jr. And on row 5 and 3, your top 10. Inside to the Oxygen Esports 5 of Zach Novak. And on the outside, the BS Competition 90 of Jordy Lopez.
Starting in 11th tonight for William Byron Esports, it'll be Tucker Minter. Garrett Lowe, fresh off a victory, starts in 12th tonight for BS Plus Competition. Daniel Falkingham looking for a rebound effort after Darlington. He'll start 13th tonight for JGR, while Seth the Merchant hung around in the top 10 in his heat race. He'll start in the 14th spot. Just behind his JGR teammate, Bobby Zielinski rolls off 15th. Dylan Alt will take up the 16th spot for Latardi Sports. Matthew Zwack, one of his best starts of the season, from 17th for Nitro Circus, will start alongside Briar LaPrade, who will roll off from the 18th spot for Junior Motorsports. Rounding out the top 20, the number 12 in the 19th spot of Garrett Maines for FGR Excel, and Femi Olatunbosun for Oxygen Esports makes up your top 20.
Way home as we go to row number 11, and it is the Travis Pastrana's Nitro Circus Sim Racing Team 41 of Dylan Duval on the inside, to race winner from earlier this year in Talladega against the Junior Motorsports 8 at Caden Honeycutt to his outside. Row number 12, we'll see the Spire Motorsports number 7 of Malik Ray, your Atlanta winner, lined up alongside the E-Racer 42 of Tyler Gary. Lucky row 13, the William Byron Esports 25 of Nick Ottinger, and the Spire Motorsports 77 of Casey Kerwin. Row number 14, inside, the Kevin Harvick Inc. 29 of Jimmy Mullis, and to the outside, the 2311 Racing 23 of Keegan Leahy. And row number 15, 29th on the grid, the Pittsburgh Knights 55 of Ryan Doucette, and 30th is the second 2311 Racing Toyota, that time the 45 of Michael Guest.
We got one more, Evan. A lockout here of row 16. Team Dillon Esports for Jonathan Delaney and Taylor Hurst will go from 31st and the 32nd starting spot, respectively. Back in 33rd, you'll find Ray Alfala for E-Racer, as well as the former E-Racer driver, now with RFK Racing, in Colin Bowden. Starting 35th tonight for the Pittsburgh Knights, the number 27 of Cody Bias, along with Timmy Holmes from RFK Racing that fell back early in his heat race. Derek Bordeaux for FRM starts for 37th. 38th after that spin with his teammate is Vicente Salas in 38th. And then Kwame Scott, Colin Keister for Latardi Sports, and Tony Kanani Esports rounding out your top 40.
It's a look top to bottom at your Coca-Cola starting grid. As we get set now, let's one more peek, Blake, at our race program. And now as we move into this 90-lap feature, our full race analysis.
And 2 tire sets available, but if we go green, we will be able to see this through to the end. We have a lot of strategy that perhaps could come into play. This is an awkward pit road to get on. It's kind of out of the way and down to 40 miles per hour, but only 90 laps for these drivers to try and get the job done. And as we heard earlier, that's likely going to be all on one run if we go green to the end.
Bonus points have been paid out. Now it's time for the real deal. Pace car down and in. Let's go racing at Iowa. Three wide already on rows 3 and 4 as they are packed in off of turn 2.
Second straight feature that we've seen Cozy go out of line to try and go 3 wide. It was almost 4 wide there for a moment, but it's going to net him a spot on Matt Busa. Jordy Lopez is already up there, and we have one spinning to the inside, hard into the inside pit wall. It's off the racing surface. We stay green, but tough luck there for Ryan Luza, who looks like he may have some irreparable damage.
Yeah, smacked hard on the left-hand side of that car. A pit wall, somewhat rare at a lot of the racetracks that we go to like that. It limits the amount of space you have to catch that race car. But with pit road so close, has to be there as a safety thing. And unfortunately, it damages his car. There was no yellow. We stay green. It's Wilson leading up front. Teammate now, the 48 car of Graham Bolin. He's trying to bring his teammate, the 20 of Tinsley, those 2 Pioneers machines, trying to fight off the 53 of White. So it's the 2 Pioneers versus the 2 Williams Esports cars in a battle for 2nd through 5th.
Again, there's a couple of cars that we saw there in that heat race that I think are going to be able to make some moves here under green flag conditions. Tucker Minter looked to be one of them. He's looking down to the bottom, 3 wide on Jordy Lopez. Novak was able to do the same thing as well as they almost touch into 3 wide again. Cozy's able to get clear of them, so he's up into the 6th position. But again, a number of those cars that looked awfully strong and were making up some spots in their heat races doing the exact same here once we got the feature started.
Still 3 wide, middle of it all, Vidani and Jordy Lopez. How long does this go on? 62 of Busa went a little bit wide on exit, almost put it into the fence. He's topside behind that 5 of Zach Novak, who's a part of the 3 wide battle. Only other driver in that we haven't mentioned yet, that 97 of Minter on the bottom. This battle is for 7th, 8th, and 9th as they run right now and has no signs of slowing down. The 97, obviously the trickiest spot on the bottom, get a little bit tight that time, and maybe Minter's opportunities on the bottom have run their course as he will tuck back in line.
Well, again, we heard from Graham that we're going to see kind of a difference of 2 strategies between these drivers. Some that go really hard at the beginning of this race and are hoping to get some of that track position that we know is so important. And you're going to have some that maybe take it a little easy, right on the bottom a little bit, try to save those tires a little bit, anticipating that we may go all 90 laps green. And I think it's pretty easy to see early on who is not utilizing that strategy. You can see Garrett Baines. We saw Cozy making some moves. Zach Novak, some of those drivers that are willing to already move around, try to get those spots. Their key, the focus of their strategy is quite clear. They want track position, and they're going to try to get it at all costs.
Looking at the battle for 14th position right now. It includes 2 rookies, Matthew Zawak and Santa Merchant. It also includes Bobby Zelensky, as you just mentioned, who's a race winner from already earlier in the season. At our first trip to Brands Hatch, he'd love to win the the duo with the new tracks on the calendar, but with some work to do as on board with Zawak, you look off at the back end. That is pressure being put on from behind. Maybe a bit of a touch that time. It's Garrett Baines pushing his way to the inside.
And again, for Zwack there, that's one of those moments in the race. You try to stick it up there on the top side. You hope you're clear, and whether he was or not, LaPrade gives him the little bit of real estate to get up there, and now has a couple of FGR Excel teammates in front of him. Maine's able to take advantage of that stack up and go down to the inside. That's one other thing with these drivers thinking that a lane is prevailing. You kind of want to go where they're not. You could see Wilson as well as the 51 of Donovan Strauss kind of doing that. They're running the bottom. Meanwhile, nearly everybody else kind of favoring the middle of the racetrack in turns 3 and 4.
And you see both of the Duracell Camaros on the inside there. The Williams Esports cars have been able to separate the Pioneers duo. It's Bolin P2, then White and Strauss 3rd and 4th, before Tinsley's back there in the number 5 spot, still watching on. So this top 5 single filed out for the first time this evening. First battle sees Jordy Lopez does 90 on the inside of the 5 of Zach Novak, who I have not seen on the bottom once tonight. In the heat of this feature, he's always topside on the racetrack. It was surprise battles all throughout the field. First time we've seen all 40 on track at once tonight.
And this is just the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. I don't think people can quite grasp or understand how hard some of these drivers are going to race, even back here, on the outskirts of the top 30. And I think this is where you can see a pretty clear separation in terms of those strategies that Graham Bolin mentioned a little bit earlier on in the night. You can see how far this pack, if that's what you want to call it, has kind of broken off the lead and is just riding around on the bottom. Again, that's the groove. Talking to these drivers, that's what's going to save the most time. Is running right along that yellow line at the very bottom of the racetrack. And I think they're hoping that if this goes green, that at some point the tables are going to turn a little bit, that these drivers that are racing really hard up here, and that they are doing, that eventually that may start to work against them and they may have a lot of tire left. Because again, I think the concern is going to be, Evan, if we go all the way through to lap 90, we know that there are a couple tracks in iRacing where the wear is significant over the course of a run. Iowa is one of those tracks we may worry about drivers just flat out blowing tires if we get a run that's that long. As Cozy right now in the middle, he's been trying to pass Wyatt Tinsley here for a number of laps, and Garrett Lowe going to try to take advantage of it as well. He's going to go all the way to the top lane and gets a huge run with some of the clean air he's got out there.
And that tire talk, quite a far cry from what we saw in the heat, is just pushing the 20 into the corner. Was Lowe that time to make a 3-wide scenario, the 20 to do his best with it, and Tinsley pulls alongside the 51 to try to fight. But in those heats, we were talking about a 30-lap sprint. No need to conserve tires. Even then, with drivers pushing early, we saw some drivers struggle more than others once we got down to the final 5. So that possibility of maybe needing them to go really long, if not maybe all the way, completely different dynamic than the all-out racing that we saw in the heat. So you wouldn't really be able to tell that anybody is thinking long-term here, because it has been very aggressive from the get-go. I mean, look at this for the iRacing drone. This is the top 10. Not a lot of separation, if any, has happened in the opening laps.
And again, this is a great shot where you can really see the differences in where these drivers are looking for speed. You can see Minter, kind of one of the few that takes a really high entry, is going to try to get to the outside of Novak, not able to do it. Especially you get down into 3 and 4, pretty much at this point, every group being utilized. You can see Lowe, Novak kind of going up right beneath that seam in the 3rd lane. But drivers kind of searching everywhere they can. And oh, by the way, new leader. It is Graham Bolin who has gotten by Steven Wilson.
The opening 17, but Graham Bolin made it work on the outside. The last lap around cleared him just before the start-finish line, and it is now a new race leader for Graham Bolin. Reminding you, as always, for more information on how to start your iRacing career today, you can log on to iRacing.com for more information. But if you want info on this series specifically, to learn more about the schedule, the standings, the teams, and more, that can all be found at iRacing.com/eNASCAR. So Wilson in a position that he has not been in yet tonight, and that is trailing. We'll see how the 10 reacts, although that was the same for Bolin, Blake. He was out in front for the entirety of his heat. He was able to do all right with that little bit of traffic in front of him. Only one car, but did a good job hanging in P2. Now he's got the clean air, so we'll see how Wilson fares.
And this is going to be a challenge here for Wilson. Again, was up front for all 30 laps and nearly 20 in this one, so hasn't necessarily had to deal with the fact that he's got a car in front of him who can kind of alter which lane he wants to run, and whether this is part of his thinking that maybe he's going to let Graham Boland go out and run up his tires a little bit.
And we'll see how that game of cat and mouse may compare for these two. As again, 90-lap feature race, a little bit shorter on the lap counter, given the fact that we had the heat race format tonight and already have run a couple of laps and given out some points, means that we are quickly burning through already at 1/4 distance, essentially, of the scheduled distance in this feature. You take a look at the 17 car of Colin Bowden back here in traffic. He rides in 34th spot with a little bit of work to do. There's the onboard look with him, Blake.
Well, and, Colin Bowden's always got something on. I think he's got the final episode, or at least a recap there. You can see Adam Alexander standing there. Of course, today being the last airing episode of Race Hub. I know they had a Victory Lap edition special, a long episode here today with that show going away. But, yeah, Colin always has got to. I think somebody's in his ear telling him, hey, I think you're on the broadcast right now, even though he's kind of riding around trying to save some tire in 35th.
Pretty impressive being able to tell from a blurry, out-of-focus background shot, but you could still pretty much tell it was Adam Alexander. And I think both me, you, and Alan were watching that 90-minute special in advance of Countdown to Green, so if we missed any cues or went a little bit late on time, we were watching that instead of maybe checking the notes. Yeah, he was there right before jumping back on with us, so that was fun to watch, and sad to see that program go, but a tip of the cap to everybody involved behind the scenes on hundreds and hundreds of episodes through the year for that program. Looking to back up with the 9070 car. Again, battling is all throughout the field. Minter in P7 right now has gained 4 spots. Every time we look, he's climbing, but he's not the only driver trying to make some moves. Garrett Maines in the 12 car, up 7 spots once more, but he's got some tricky trouble trying to navigate this mess in front of him. Not the best exit off of 4.
I think the one thing you see is, a couple of those drivers, particularly Cozy, who was pushing really hard, was able to get up to 6th in the first couple of laps. I think this is where the reckoning is happening for him. He's fallen back to 10th in just a handful of laps, and the bleeding may continue here throughout the course of this run. This is kind of where, if you did burn up your stuff, this is where we're going to start to see it. And Maines right now, you can see very committed to the bottom right now. While everybody's kind of moving around, there's a number of drivers who they want to plant that left side almost right on that yellow line, try to save their tires, keep that grip as long as they possibly can. And Maines doing a great job of it right now, up several positions since the drop of the green flag, and looking like he's got a car that could certainly compete in the top 10.
Oh, and touch there is Garrett Maines' contact with Matt Busa on the exit at turn 4. Busa was on the outside and then maybe came off the wall a little bit after getting into it. Nearly chopped Maines off. Those two cars going to be able to hang on, but Garrett Maines almost getting taken out in that one. Curious to see if those two continue to give each other some space back there. They're a little bit behind the battle you're watching now as Garrett Lowe giving a bit of a push to the 97 car, sending Minter up a little bit wide on the entry to turn number 1. And in a rarity, the 5 cars on the bottom. That's Novak trying to make something happen, but almost lost it.
Yeah, you're starting to get to the part of the run where guys are going to be just hanging on for dear life if their tires aren't working for them. And you can see how close these drivers have to run. That's just a product of having to race here at Iowa, that making these moves. And despite the fact this is a multi-groove racetrack, you can go low, you can go to the middle, you can go to the high side. And we've seen it change throughout the course of the night, that even making these passes, the margin between these drivers is so close. You have to get aggressive, and it's just mere inches even. If you're trying to make that move on the bottom, you got to side draft him down a straightaway to give yourself a chance. And if you can clear, you got to do it immediately. This is a dynamic racetrack that really tests a driver's racecraft. You can see it right now. Garrett Lowe doing a great job, able to cut down and get to the inside of Novak, but just as soon as he does that, he gets loose off of 2 and allows Jordy Lopez a spot. So that's the other thing as well. You have to be calculated in the lanes that you pick, because Lopez saw that immediately. He thought, I could get to the high side of Garrett Lowe, it could take advantage. And Lowe, after passing both these drivers, just a couple laps later, he's got to start it all over again.
It has been a wild start to this race, past the 1/3 distance marker. And as the
battling continues as the tires start to slip off. Let's go down trackside and go iRacing full throttle. Well, the Iowa Speedway pretty young compared to some of the other tracks on the calendar, but it has been open since 2006, so going on nearly 20 years, Blake. It may be a little bit late to coin it a nickname, but if tonight is an indication, my vote is for the Madhouse in the Midwest, because it is just everywhere you look, 2-3 wide, cars slipping and sliding, and somehow so far, knock on wood, 38 laps of uninterrupted racing.
Well, and again, this is no surprise, especially if you're an iRacing customer. This track has been around the service, for over a decade now, and as long as this track has been around through the various updates and builds and cars that have come through Iowa, this is the type of racing that you see, that everybody kind of drives it in their own unique way, and there are a lot of different ways to find speed here at this racetrack. This next gen, at least here, the Coach Series has taken really very well to it. Is Femio Lottenbosen, we talked about him earlier tonight. He was going to have his work cut out for him, but doing a spectacular job right now, trying to make his way past. You can see Busa kind of falling back. Meanwhile, his teammate in Jimmy Mullis had to start the back, and he's kind of going the opposite direction. He's going forward. Meanwhile, the 62 kind of on his way backwards, and Mullis trying to pull along Casey Kerwin with him, who uncharacteristically, Evan, it's not all the time that we see Kerwin start inside the top 20, but it's kind of common that at this point in the race we would see him a little bit further forward, even if that were the case.
It's true, and you go on board there with the 77 at Kerwin. It's a good look at both of the Treetop Chevrolets for Kevin Harvick Incorporated. The Matt Busa car topside, the 62, Mullis in the middle, now 3 wide, and the 29 Corolla. This going on to the outside of Kerwin, who out the front end of the car you wouldn't notice, but he's not going to be able to swing wide because there's that 29 topside. Again, the outside typically able to get that better run off of the corner. 2 more degrees of banking topside, 14 degrees compared to the 12 on the bottom, the progressive banking. But with that being said, 77 clears. Nice little move there for Casey Kerwin to take away P18, and he's still got some work to do. He's already up 8 spots, but has a lot more work to do. So he jumps right into another battle, trying to force a 3 wide between the 88 of LaPrade and the 22 on the bottom there. Volantin Bosin, it was a bit of an awkward entry.
I just wonder at this point, too, you see a couple of guys, Cozy being one of them. LaPrade's a little bit sideways, that are really struggling right now. And we heard from Graham Boland that fuel's not going to be a factor for these guys. They can make it all the way to the end on a full tank of gas that they started this race with. But are you going to see somebody, which would be in the next lap or two as we approach the halfway point, that is really struggling right now, that is going to take the gamble? Do we see anybody like Cozy, like Matt Busa, who's falling back here, are they going to take the risk, come down under pit road, take 4 tires, and try to split this race up into 2 separate runs? Again, the fall off is quite significant, and we may have a couple drivers that by the end of this race, their tires aren't able to make it the distance anyway. So I think at this point, if you're fading, you're falling back pretty hard right now, you may have no other choice, and you may have to come down and pit here in the next lap or 2.
Well, some big things to note on those live playoff points, and it's number 1, Wyatt Tinsley, who entered tonight 22nd in the standings. He's running 4th on track right now. That gives him enough points to be currently a top 20 car in points. Therefore, he shows up in the category of the winners. That leaves us with only 3 points paying positions in on the standings because there's a new car leading this race, Graham Bolin, 20th, right on the cut line to stay in this series, leading the race right now. That's why he shows up as 5th. It would be a big win for the 48 car, but one thing has proven that if it is Bolin tonight, if it is Tinsley, if it is as well the likes of, those other race winners down there below the cut line and Keegan Leahy, winners and that top 20 requirement to lock in going to be a storyline through the end of this season.
And again, that 20 of Tinsley, you can see he's in right now by virtue of running at 4th right now. But you guess who's out? Malik Ray, that number 7 car, which again, he's kind of been going back and forth every single race on being inside or outside the top 20 in points. He got his first Coke Series career win in Atlanta earlier this season. And right now, that's not working out for him as Mullis and Ottinger tangled back here. Some contact, and Mullis had to hang on to that as he got a little bit of a door there from the Logitech Chevrolet of Nick Ottinger, trying to move his way up through the top 20. But even Casey Kerwin, you can see right here that number 77 car on the right-hand side of your screen, not having a run that we're accustomed to him seeing. He's up into 13th, but right now would be just one of a few drivers that would be able to make their way in on points.
The Ottinger's been doing a good job as we're on board with him as he looks to the inside of Olot and Boson in a battle for 16th. Nick's up 9 spots with the nose in front of the 22. That time at the stripe, that's about the 3rd or 4th biggest mover through the field. Garrett Means is up 10, and then Casey Kerwin, 26th to 12th, is the biggest mover in the field. Actually, Kerwin now to 11, so make it plus 15 positions for him. Those are some of the drivers who have been making some moves. There's a look at Kerwin now with that nose in front of Zelensky at a battle for 10th and 11th. Now make it 16 positions gained for Casey Kerwin.
I think it's quite clear at this point, the drivers that saved and the drivers that didn't. We kind of saw a long line of cars that were in the tail of the field that were saving their stuff, that were running along the bottom of the racetrack. Those drivers they're going to start slowly creeping their way forward. We mentioned Kerwin, who was outside the top 20 probably about 10 laps ago. He's at 10th. Garrett Baines has also done a great job of saving. He's up into the 9th position. And we saw a number of cars that have been running in the top 10 all night, Evan. Buckingham really close to there. Dylan Duvall, Jimmy Mullis, who he's kind of surging his way forward, but a number of guys. Matt Busas, he's already outside of the top 20. So when we talked about those differing strategies and pushing hard and saving and trying to get track position, this race is playing out that if you try to get track position and use a little bit more race car than you needed earlier, you are paying for it and paying for it dearly right now.
And for all of the movement that we've been talking about throughout the field, I mean, look at this shot. Cars all the way up to the inside, all the way on the bottom, 2 and 3 wide. You haven't missed much up front. Again, you could watch those intervals on the scoring pylon, but Graham Bolin still your leader. His advantage now nearly a second ahead of Steven Wilson. And then Parker White, Wyatt Tinsley still sitting 3rd and 4th, exactly where they started. So it's chaotic everywhere but those top 5 as we sit back here to watch the battle for Caden Honeycutt's spot on the back. The 8's got P20. There's about a half a dozen cars who want to take it from him.
And this is what I love, seeing these drivers having to work hard. And even Ryan Doucette, you can see here getting a little bit of clean air on the bottom, but you can see even just anywhere at this track, Evan, there's so many bumps that these drivers are having to go through. The transitions off the corner, especially off of turn 2, can be a little bit awkward. You can see his car, if anything, he's not that loose. He's having to actually put a little bit of wheel into it. But then off the corner, you could see he gets back on the throttle, and he is having to wheel the heck out of it. I just love watching these drivers. This is why they're the best in the world, that they can do this for as long as they are and continue to battle just mere inches off of one another. It's so impressive to watch. Is he able to get clear LaPrade? He is. And now, hey, how about Ray Alfala? You know, this is a run that he's desperately needed. It hasn't been a great season so far for four-time, but he's got his teammate in front of him. We've seen a lot of that tonight. But, you know, Alfala's kind of somebody that in recent years has kind of favored a more bullish strategy of pushing the car a little bit harder and not really saving, taking the opposite approach tonight, and so far it's paying off for him.
Yeah, it's been good so far. Not the Q effort he wanted, of course. That ties back to a 17th place finish in the first heat race, but Alfala up about 8 spots, looking for some more. Enjoying the great battle going on in front of him with the Knights cars, the 27 and the 55, trading back and forth. Honeycutt losing both of those spots. He slides to P22, and we'll see who is next up on deck as all of this continues about 9 seconds and change back of the leaders. Again, you just look at them fan out 3 wide, center of the corner. The 42 with Tyler Gary in the middle of it. He'll find an opening top side there. And now the 3, Jonathan Delaney, saw that we were not 3 wide for about a half a second and decided to fix that. He'll put the Coca-Cola Chevy on the bottom. Bit of a tricky entry, though. That car not going to want to rotate with that aggressive arc in on the bottom, so he'll lose out that spot to the 69 car, but they go back to 2x2 for the moment. And again, it's going to continue nearly 60 laps into this race. Fastest laps of the race were put early, 24 4s and 3s. Blake, we're talking more than a second and a half of fall off as these tires continue to struggle.
Well, and again, there are drivers that are even faring worse than that. Cozy and Busa, they're outside of the top 30 right now. They're down into the 26-second bracket, so nearly 2 seconds of fall. I'm surprised that we haven't seen a number of those drivers that have elected to pit, because again, at this point, what are you hanging on for? What are you hoping for at this point? Everybody's going to take 2 if you have a green flag pit stop at this point. I guess you just lose so much time under green trying to make that pit stop as we continue to see battling for 23rd. I don't know how much longer they can hang on here, because there's a lot of turbulent air back here. Everybody's moving around, everybody's sliding around, very little grip on this racetrack, very abrasive. But you also see a lot of battling kind of up towards the front. Kerwin up in 8 spots, able to get by Garrett Maines. And Kerwin, the last 15 or so laps, he's been one of the fastest cars on the track despite some of the traffic.
Well, we talked earlier about how the strategy would play out in this one, Blake. The fact that if we went all the way, we'd have some tires that were awfully struggling. Obviously, drivers have dropped off lap times. It doesn't seem like, though, inside of 30 to go, anybody would come down pit road for the tires. It's just like too much time lost. We're kind of all in the same boat to go to the end.
Yeah, well, I think at this point you can't. You know, if you had split this race up in half, which again, it may not be the ideal strategy, but I think that was the only way you were going to make it work. Now with just 30 laps to go, not going to have enough time to use those tires for anything. You may be a second and a half or 2 seconds faster for a good portion of the run, but it's just a little bit too late here. So I think pretty much everybody right now, except for Colin Keister, he's the only one that came down and pit. He's on fresh tires. And he's in the 24.8 second bracket, so he's a second clear of everybody else, but he's the only one that came down and took tires. So we'll see how it works out for him. But at this point, if you're one of those drivers that's just hanging on, you're just going to have to do that, just hang on until the very end. And Tyler Gary, Taylor Hirsch, remember these two got together at Darlington. And Gary right now kind of on the inside in that boat, just trying to hang on for dear life right now.
So you can see Hirsch tucking in line as we are now inside next time by of 25 laps to go here at the Iowa Speedway. It has been on-stop action from the get, but so far, green throughout. Up front, Bolin still leads. It is not time to sound the alarm yet, but Steven Wilson has cut that gap from 9/10 of a second to 5. He may be closing in a possible battle for the lead as Honeycutt in the 8 car. He gets tagged sideways in 3. He will save it. No, finally gets tagged. And there is caution number 1.
Oh, man, and I thought he had it saved, and the crazy part is, again, these cautions are thrown by the game, so the game registered that Caden Honeycutt was sideways enough that it warranted a caution, and he was still trying to wheel it as Colin Bowden came in and was thinking, hey, this may stay green. He rolls through, and just unfortunate there for Honeycutt, who spent really the entire back straightaway trying to save that race car. I mean, he got loose, got hit out of 2, and with just how much wear and how bumpy this track is, he was having to hang on to it all the way down the backstretch, and unfortunately just could not do it any longer into turn 3. But sets up a really interesting run to the end here, Evan, and I think with what we've seen this season, despite the fact that, yes, there's a lot of tire wear, I think we're still going to see a majority of the field take 2 tires here. I think at this point, it's going to be all about track position. I don't think anybody up front's going to take 4. I wouldn't be shocked if we see a ton of 2-tire calls here.
Well, as everybody heads to the pit lane, let's wind the tape back, take a second look at what that happened. This felt like one of those near incidents or near misses that we had about a dozen, if not more times earlier in this race, Blake. But to your point, finally, we just didn't get away with one.
See that 3-car, Delaney gets into Caden Honeycutt. He spends the entire back straightaway saving it, and again, just overcorrects a little bit. He has it saved. And then Bowden, if anything, that little nudge is what actually sent him around to where he couldn't save it. But you can see Colin Bowden's on board. He doesn't really know where Honeycutt's going, you know. Like, I know if you're the 8-car, you're probably a little upset with the 17, but just a second before he got there, his nose is pointed to the outside wall. You think he's going high. So with Bowden there, and the fact that the caution hadn't been displayed yet, it's tough there if you're Bowden to really choose a lane to go to.
Here's a look from further back with Bordeaux choosing high. That ends up being the correct decision to be able to sneak on by. And again, the yellow came out just prior to that contact with the 17 car. Take a look at the 6 car, who was just on top. Maybe a bit of a touch, some small wall contact to the outside, but that could have been a whole lot worse for the 6. Timothy Holmes. Well, to your point, Blake, 4 tires, the popular decision. In fact, it is almost the unanimous decision. The top 15 cars go for a 2-tire decision. Up front, Bolin able to maintain, but Parker White leapfrogs Steven Wilson. He will take P2, and that drops the Iowa native to 3rd for the upcoming restart.
Now, remember what we saw at Charlotte, though, with the outcome of 2 and 4 tires. If we go green to the end of this race, maybe we have an opportunity where 4 tires would be the right call. But I don't know, just recent series history would tell you that at this point, it's going to be short run city here to the end. So 2 tires, I think, is going to be that right call. The first car on 4 tires, Tucker Minter in 16th. You have Garrett Maines, who falls back to 17th. He lost about 8 or 9 spots on pit road. He also took 4 tires. You have another couple of 2-tire takers, and then pretty much the back half of the field all took 4. So a true split decision here in terms of the field, taking 4, taking 2. And I guess we'll have to see how it pans out. But recently, the going logic in this series seems to be 2 tires is going to be the way to go.
So we'll see if this pans out in the end. How does Wilson sliding back to 3rd affect him? Does being on the inside or run number 2 actually benefit being behind the leader? What can Parker White do from the outside? And then also, what do the final 20 laps of this race look like? It's not to say that drivers were being conservative, because if you had watched any of the opening 70, you would have thought it was a green to white checker every single lap around, Blake. But as the age-old adage goes, cautions breed cautions. This could look very different.
For sure, but there is a new rule coming into this race that could kind of shift things up a little bit if we are to get cautions after the yellow flies. The lights are off on the pace car. We get 1 to go. If we have another caution within 5 laps of this restart, we will go to single file restarts. And that is only a move that will take place in the 5 laps after a caution if we were to get a repeat. All green, white checkers, if we do get to that situation here a little bit later on in the race. That will all be double file, but we'll go to single file if we get another restart here within 5 laps of this one.
So we'll see if that plays a factor in this one or not. Bolin has led a race high 54. Parker White up to P2. It's the highest he's been so far tonight. Pace car down and in. 18 laps to go. Green flag in the air. It's a good jump for the inside. Bolin clear for the lead to 1. Here comes Wilson diving to the inside for P2.
Bolin didn't want to come up early. He wanted to make sure he stayed in his lane until the start-finish line. And oh, one car flipping over in turn number 2. A hard impact, several cars involved. And that will indeed bring out the caution flag as one car gets up and into the catch fencing off of turn 2. And that scenario that we were just talking about is going to come to fruition here. We'll have a single file restart after this one. But a tough and hard impact with 18 to go off of turn 2.
Yeah, that was Keegan Leahy who was upside down and on his roof. That car skidded to a stop and had to be towed to pit road. That's going to be a significant time penalty before that team is allowed to even start working virtually on that car, let alone seeing if it's even feasible to bring it back. And let's watch it all unfold. I think the centerpiece is going to be the 3 of Jonathan Delaney.
Again, he was the one that tagged Caden Honeycutt earlier. Contact with Tyler Gary. And oh man, Matt Busa, Michael Guest. We saw Keegan Leahy up. He was the one that was up into the catch fencing here, but tough there. It looked like Gary kind of cut down in the center of the corner, got Delaney a little bit loose, and again, that's a tough spot in the racetrack to get hit. And where it funnels off of turn number 2, everybody piles in.
It's a big wreck for a racetrack under a mile in length, and it'll indeed bring up the fact that we are taking a look at this new format for restarts. You had alluded to it. This is a new restart procedure that was announced at the end of May for short track races with the heat format, which we are running here tonight. It's worth noting there are no other races on the calendar with that format for the rest of 24 except for tonight. All restarts will start as double file, but if a caution occurs within the first lap after a restart, so any restart not counting the initial start of the race, we will switch to a single file restart procedure. Now, we need to complete 5 consecutive laps without a yellow once the single file restart procedure has been initiated for restarts to be switched back to double file. So any yellow within 5 laps of the restart means we will go single file again. The only exception, and it's worth noting this, Blake, because we're inside of 20 laps to go, is that if we go to eNASCAR overtime for a green-white checker, all restarts from that point would be double file.
All right, it looks like we have Keegan Leahy here standing by. And Keegan, I know you're just kind of riding around there. What in the world happened off of turn 2?
I wasn't riding around. I probably had the best tires in the field, ready to make some moves. Got up there to the mid-20s. If it went green, I was probably going to have a good finish. Quite a lot faster than cars ahead of me, but just a late race caution and flipped over. That's about all I could say about it.
I know we were talking about earlier in this race, there was kind of a divergence in the strategies here, and certainly you kind of mentioned it there. You saved, you were able to drive your way up through the field. Where did you think that was going to kind of net you if all kind of played out there?
Yeah, I'd have to look at the leader's pace, but I thought I was going to get up to 15th or 10th, looking for good points, as you know, trying to get top 20 in points here, but this probably spells the end of my regular season, so I'm going to go for wins at this point and have fun. All good.
All right, Keegan, well, hopefully you're able to have some more fun here in 2024. I hope the luck turns around here soon.
Keegan Leahy, race winner from Las Vegas, 28th of the points coming into tonight. This will hurt the driver who needs to be top 20 for his race win to count. Meanwhile, for the first time, we go single file restart coming to 13 laps to go. Green flag back in the air. Who's the first to dive out of line? Looks like it happens at about 7th or 8th spot back there in line. It's the Nadia Lopez to the bottom.
And this is kind of another reason with this rule change coming that I was a little bit skeptical of a 4-tire call, because this only makes your life more difficult. You start entire rows further back. If you came out 15th, you're losing, about 6 or 7 rows worth of positions.
It doubles the length back. I mean, 15th is no longer, row 7 or 8. It's row 15. You're double the length back. But what this does do is give Steven Wilson a look to the inside. Huge dive. Contact between the leaders. Wilson, Bolin, contact door to door and side by side for the race lead. 10 cars on the bottom.
Yeah, you can see there that Wilson looked to try and go and throw a slider, and just late Bolin reacted to it. He went down to the second lane, forced Wilson to check up. And again, if you're Wilson, how aggressive do you play this? You have a number of wins to this season already. Graham Bolin, you're fighting to get to the playoffs. We heard from him earlier how desperate he is to make that happen. You also got Parker White with the contact these two had that is right back up into the battle with these three.
If Parker White watching on would love to take advantage, does he insert himself into the battle, or does he wait and let these two duke it out? Wilson, a 2-time race winner, already in a position to be in the playoffs. Bolin sits on the cusp of just staying qualified for this championship, entering tonight in P20. Who wants it more? Who has more to lose? The inside is open. Wilson takes a peek, unable to make it down there. 8 laps to go the next time by. Does Parker White again do anything from third? This time Wilson follows in the tire tracks of Bolin.
And Parker White kind of being the one that is looking forward and seeing where he can get a little bit of clean air. I would say Wyatt Tinsley, with the lap times he's been running, he may have a shot to try and challenge for this one should these top 3 get racing amongst themselves with 8 to go. But how desperate does Wilson get? Again, you have kind of a little bit of etiquette here when you have a number of wins. You have somebody in front of you who's looking to get back to the playoffs, somebody right behind you who's never won a Coke Series race. So how do you play this if you're Wilson? Because you can't get aggressive here at Iowa if you want to, but how much does you do it? These two work together and are good friends. I'd imagine it wouldn't get too dirty between these two, but you never know.
There's a lot on the line, and of course, Steven Wilson would love to win in the first race at his home track. Battle for 8th, the bottom of your screen. Battle for the race win on the top side. Parker White is already in a points-paying playoff position. Does he risk it to go for the win in the lock-in? Now Wilson crossing back to the inside, but Bolin, I think, is comfortable being topside on the defensive line, holds him off again.
Wilson, you can see try to go to the top side of 3 and 4. If you are going to find a different lane to build up a huge run, that's exactly where you're going to be able to do it. He couldn't get the job done in 1 and 2, and now he's going to look top side of 1 and 2. Now there are some bumps up there that Wilson's going to have to run over, but again, just try to build up a momentum and try to have something that he could take a swing at Graham Bolin. Parker White, meanwhile, just looking for any path and hoping that these two get side by side. That's the best thing that could happen, is these two race it out, and then he's up to try and capitalize on that.
4 laps to go. Does Wilson keep trying to go to the inside? That's where all his looks have been made. And Bolin has been pretty comfortable with the defense on the outside. Does the 10 find a way to force his way up top, or does he go back to the bottom? And does he have to get aggressive? Again, White is right there in third. Tinsley half a second back, has already got a race win this season. He watches on from 4th, now at 3 laps to go. Wilson still trying to get under the 48, who's only leaving about a half lane underneath him.
And right now, if you're Parker White, if you try to battle Wilson for second, that may end your chances to win. So I think at this point, you got to let these two try to settle it. As contact made, Bolin up the racetrack. Here they come, side by side. 2 to go at the line. White going to push Bolin as they lean on each other. 3 wide for the lead into turn 1.
Parker White looks to the inside. Door gets shut. Wilson, is he clear for the lead off of turn number 2? He is. But how does Graham Bolin respond to the bump and run? Not going to have a chance. Caution comes out behind your race leaders. Timothy Holmes is involved, and we will go to eNASCAR overtime with Wilson scored as the leader.
Ah, man, that was going to be an all-timer right there. I think Bolin, if that yellow doesn't come out, he gets physical, and he probably shoves Wilson into 3 and 4 to give back a little bit what was given to him. And Parker White almost got the lead and made the move, but a fantastic battle amongst your top competitors. But now the question comes, Evan, do you pit now or do you stay out? It's overtime. Tires matter a lot, but I don't know if it's worth giving up the track position. We'll take one more look back at what happened here. Timothy Holmes, you can see Malik Ray there in the 7 car, but Holmes getting into the corner, and I think just didn't quite carry the speed that I think Malik Ray was expecting. Colin Keister gets tagged in it as well. But it's enough to send him around. Now remember, Malik Ray, he's battling to get in the top 20, so his win counts. But, yeah, Holmes right there just loses a lot of speed in the center of the corner. Don't think that was intentional at all from Malik, but a tough break for him and a tough break for Keister, who got called out kind of on that pit strategy a little bit earlier.
And not only is Steven Wilson the leader, but at the moment of caution, Parker White was looking to the inside of the 10 for the lead, so Parker White will be scored in second. If I'm Steven Wilson, maybe I almost prefer Bola to be scored P2, because that means that he's going to line up behind him. Let's chat with the driver in the top spot, though. Blake, he's looking to complete the perfect night after winning his heat earlier tonight.
Well, that was some pretty tense stuff there, Steven, between you, Parker, and Graham, but getting into 2, or you have a little bit of contact there with Graham. He goes up the racetrack. What kind of happened there from your perspective?
I'll be honest, Blake, I kind of used him up there. You know, I was on him the whole run. It seems like I just have a little bit better rotation right behind him, the line I'm running. Just something I noticed on the run before through 3 and 4. I was just turning a little better, but my M teammates set up teammates with Graham, and I did kind of use him up there. So he has a free will back at it, but I really want to win this goddamn home race for me. I really want to win here, so I'll do what I can for it, I guess, but I won't be mad if he does it back here.
All right, so you're expecting it then?
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be too mad about it. I mean, I gave him a little nudge. It was nothing crazy, in my opinion, but obviously it gives him the open invitation to do it back. I wouldn't blame him.
Well, speaking of an open invitation, we hear the thoughts there from Steven. Graham, your response to that?
I mean, yeah, he leoparded me, and then, yeah, he got the lead because of it, so we're just gonna race right here, so.
All right, well, thanks for chatting with us, and we'll let you get back after it.
Does it muddy the waters at all, Blake? And you heard Steven reference it, the fact that they're setup teammates. They drive on different teams, but they have a technical alliance with each other behind the scenes. Does that make it better or worse here?
That makes it a lot worse. Again, these are guys that work throughout the weeks. They're putting in the laps, they're putting in the time and the hours and everything to do this. And, you know, the one thing I can say from Boland's perspective is that it really turns you sour when you think about the fact that Wilson, he's leading the regular season points. He's got a couple of wins, so there's, you know, you want to race hard with each other. You don't want to just give guys wins or anything like that. Like, I'm proud of the fact that they're racing each other hard, and Wilson was holding him to it. But from Boland's perspective there, Wilson's already locked into the playoffs. Do work together. Is there really a need for that? To open the door for something potentially like that to happen. That's I think that's where Graham Boland sits, and we'll see the result here on this restart, which, by the way, if you're not familiar with eNASCAR overtime, this is how it works. We get 3 attempts to the finish, and if we see the white flag, we will take it all the way through to the end. And by the way, back to double file restarts also for the remainder of the race.
So 2 by 2 for the rest of it all. Attempt number 1 at eNASCAR overtime. Steven Wilson, already a multi-time race winner, using up a teammate, in a sense, trying to get a race win at his hometown track. Flip side of that, Graham Boland feels like he was slighted in that. He needs this win more than Wilson does. How does the 48 car respond? And it is not just a battle between those two. Can Parker White slide in and steal the glory? He's P2. Don't look now. Top side, the 20, Wyatt Tinsley. He's already got a race win this season. He's going to restart from 4th. The pace car off and in. All eyes on the number 10. Green flag back in the air. It's a good jump for Wilson.
If anybody's going to have a shot here at Steven, they got to get clear. But we're 3 and 4 wide throughout the pack. Bolin, though, not able to get clear of Parker White, so they'll be side by side for second. That's exactly what the 10 car Steven Wilson wants to see.
Looking for the white flag, this time by. Advantage in the battle for second goes to Parker White, who gets clear of Graham Bolin, and this race is official. Wrecking on the front straightaway, but it doesn't matter up front. Steven Wilson, 1 car length over Parker White. Here comes the 53, drives it into the bumper, tries to move the 10. Wilson holds strong, not going to be enough, and the hometown hero wins in the first trip to Iowa. It's Steven Wilson again. Checkered flag number 3 for the defending champion. A bump from Tinsley. What a battle. Parker White tried his best to give a send at the end, Blake, but he hit him so square. Wilson saw it coming and was able to shake it off. This winning moment is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR, as Wilson, 3-time race winner.
And like you said, Parker tried. He tried. He got in there and he full-on sent it to try to get his first win. But Wilson was able to hold on despite the contact, and like you said, hit him square. If he hits him kind of in the left rear quarter panel, it probably spins that 10 car out, but aligned it perfectly.
Let's take a look at our Coca-Cola move of the race. Wilson took the lead just before this final caution flag, and it was really the restart there that got him the advantage he needed to Blake, but more so than the battle for second behind, because White and Bolin started fighting with each other, and that's essentially what made it too late for either of them.
Yeah, off the turn 2 there, if Graham had gotten clear, it would have been him that had the shot at Steven Wilson, perhaps going into 3, but Bolin, Parker White side by side. And if anything, I think Bolin here recognizes my best shot to win is to let Parker go. Get back in line and see if there's a prayer at Parker White being able to get back to Steven Wilson. And, well, he nearly did. And if anything, he did get to him, but it just wasn't enough to rattle him and get him out of shape. I mean, look at how deep he drove it in, but it just hit Wilson square up the racetrack, and he's able to hang on.
Steven Wilson hangs on, wins at his hometown racetrack of Iowa Speedway. Let's head to the Sunoco post-race report. Blake, I'll hand things off to you. You're with our race winner.
Well, you said earlier in the night, Steven, you hoped you'd be talking to us a number of times, and indeed you have. You get the job done at your home track. I know it's got to feel good to get what is a very important win for you. But just kind of, once again, I'll just ask you now that, you complete it, you get the job done. What are your thoughts kind of about, that battle between you and Graham and what happened between you two?
Yeah, it's honestly, I guess, my reputation now, racing for the win. It's hard to win these things. I'm doing all I can. It's the first ever race here at Iowa Speedway. So a little bump and run, short track racing, as they say. It's nothing crazy. Finished still P3 in the race. It was going to be close there if it went green. I was kind of running him down. So I just really wanted that one. I got the Hawkeye gear on here today to rep the Hawkeye State here on the broadcast. So I just want to thank M80, thank all the setup guys, NFR, thank everybody who's helping me on the team right now. And I know he's probably, he's definitely mad, but hopefully, we've been good friends for a while, so hopefully he'll get over it, but that's not that easy. So I wouldn't blame him if he's mad for the rest of the season.
You came in as the points leader. You obviously have 3 wins, which is clear of what anybody else has been able to match this season. So with 4 races left in the regular season, is it just kind of win or bust here at this point, trying to rack up playoff points?
Yeah, I mean, at this point with the tracks we have left, I'm pretty confident at most of them. So I feel good about all the tracks that we're going to, and obviously it'll take another step up in the playoffs once we get there. So winning is obviously the key right now. Getting those playoff points will help me, especially if I got angry drivers at me in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens, though. Just hopefully this good good luck keeps going, and I'm just really happy to win here at the home track.
Steven Wilson leaves with the win. He also leads as the winner of Segment 3, this being the first race of Segment 3. He gets the win, and will look to garner those 5 playoff points as well before moving on into the postseason. But Steven Wilson, your winner tonight on the Sunoco post-race report, and coming up just shy of his first career win on the other side of it, competitive all night, Parker White. And, I don't think there's any question about it. You try to make the winning move down into turn 3. What would you have done different, or kind of approaching that move again if you had another shot at it?
Well, I think I would have just driven in deeper there. I didn't think I was at a realistic spot to pull off a successful bump and run without completely wrecking Steven. But when I got in the corner, I had a lot of grip, and I just didn't hit the brakes and ran into the back of him. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite enough to knock him out of the way, but I was really happy with how my pace was that race. I did not feel confident at all in testing. I was like 2 seconds off in the spreadsheet. I was really just looking to keep the tires on it all race, which I was able to do. Just wrap the bottom both corners. I think I was like the only car that was running the bottom in 3 and 4. So at least I found something that worked well for me. So I just stuck to that the whole race. Was sitting there in P3. I felt really good with my car. Then we got that caution. It set up everything there at the end. And that's really what put me in contention. I really wanted that race to go green at first, but then when I saw Graham and Steven get into it, I thought I'd have a chance. And I was really close there if that caution wouldn't come out, the last one, because that was when Steven moved Graham, and I was right there into 3, but unfortunately we got that caution. I think if that would have went green, I would have had a much better shot. But, I mean, I'm at a really good spot in points. I'm P2, but unfortunately that doesn't really matter because I think we've got like 7 or 8 winners this season, so I'm really going to have to find a way to win one of these next 4 races. Obviously, the Chicago Street Course, that's quite a good race for me. Unfortunately, the format with the invert 8 and qualifying, I don't know if that'll play in my favor, but just have to keep pushing forward. I didn't feel confident in tonight, and I came out of here with P2, so if I feel confident in a race, I think I can go and win it.
And it was 4th in points coming in. I think when it's all tallied up, you may be 2nd overall, and maybe first of those cars looking to try and transfer in on points. But Parker, thanks for talking to us, and congratulations on P2 tonight.
Thank you, Blake.
So Parker White looking for that win, may not think that points is going to cut it here with just 4 races left to go before the postseason. As we turn things over to our 3rd place finisher tonight in Graham Bolin. Again, won his heat race earlier on in the night, brings it home P3. So a great point night for you on the cut line, but I know you wanted a little bit more tonight.
And points don't matter. Like, I'm already top 20, so I was aiming for the win. Like, I don't know what I could have done differently, to be honest. Like, I drove a pretty good race, and I passed him around the outside cleanly. And then I was holding a steady gap at the end before the caution came out. It's probably going to win if it went green. Same thing if it went green on the 2 tires. And he just throttled up into my left rear. Like, I don't know.
Well, you have 4 races left to go here before the postseason. I think you kind of said it in your words right now. Is it kind of win or bust at this point for you?
It's not win or bust. Like, I'm not going to wreck myself. Like, I'm just going to, if the win's there, I'm going to take it, obviously, and then performed pretty well tonight. So I think I carried the momentum. The last 3 races, I've been like matching speed with the leaders every lap. So, and this race, I felt like I had an advantage. And even though I pulled like a pretty big gap from like 45 to 60, I was still maintaining the gap. So, yeah, it's a pretty good feeling, but it still sucks. I mean, just get left right out of the lead because they can't pass you clean.
All right, 4 races left, Graham. Hopefully we'll be talking to you at some point in those 4, and best of luck going forward. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Well, that's a look and a chat with our top finishers on the Sunoco post-race report. Now we take a look at your full race results. Again, the race win goes to Steven Wilson, his 3rd of the season. Parker White in a playoff maintain position at the moment based on points, gets second, but he feels like he may need a win given all of the different race winners. And then, of course, Graham Bolin, who's needing a win for sure to get into the playoffs. He ends up in third ahead of his teammate Wyatt Tinsley in the number 4 position. You get back to the midfield here. Some drivers with some good pickups. Jimmy Mullis had a lot of improvement throughout the night. So did Femi Allenton-Bosin. Ryan Luza, a bit of a disappointer after starting P7.
Yeah, again, one of those drivers that just kind of fell back. And if anything, with Luza, he spun early. So I think 17th, a great rally for that number 80 M80 car there in the 17th position. But a lot happened there. We mentioned kind of there was a big wreck there on the final lap and kind of shuffled up the running order pretty big in terms of the back half of the field. A number of drivers kind of able to take advantage of that. Cozy being one who was back at about 36th. On that latest restart, Malik Ray, Vicente Salas, a couple of guys that ran into some late trouble that were able to garner a couple of spots after a huge accident that happened at the start-finish line there to start the white flag lap.
Yeah, a lot of the drivers as well unable to get a good result after being involved in the accident on the last lap of this race. That includes guys like LaPrade, Keister, Zawak, Hurst, and maybe Bowden as well. A lot of the names caught up in that one. And, of course, with no yellows on the last lap of the race, they were forced to kind of scramble and try to make the most of it. But certainly a poor end to the night for all of those drivers. Leahy, Busa, and Scott not making it to the full schedule distance in this Iowa race that had the heats, had the feature, and a whole lot of storylines and drama as we race into the rest of segment number 3 and head to the Nashville Super Speedway, Blake, in 2 weeks.
And this has kind of become a staple on the schedule the last couple of years. And, you know, again, with this next-gen car and how we've seen since the dynamic track updates, these races have been playing out. I think we'll see something a little bit similar to what we saw at Iowa tonight, a track that as the race progresses is going to challenge these drivers. This is one of the more difficult ovals to get a handle on across the entire service. So really interested to see who's up to the challenge, and we may see a couple of our front runners that once again are going to flex some muscle in the Music City.
It'll be the last time we go racing at an intermediate racetrack until Texas in the middle of the round of 10 on the playoffs. And, of course, with Homestead Miami being the championship site this year, there's intermediate racetracks as important as ever. But until next time, that is it for us here tonight from Iowa. On behalf of our entire team at iRacing, eNASCAR, for everybody behind the scenes, and for your broadcast team tonight, for Alan Cavana, Blake McCandless, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank you all for tuning in, and congratulations to Steven Wilson, who's a 3-time race winner in 2024. The road to $500,000 continues in 2 weeks' time on June 25th from iRacing's virtual Nashville Super Speedway. That race and every race of the 2024 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series can be found exclusively right here on the iRacing Esports Network and streaming live at eNASCAR.com. Until then, good night from the Hawkeye State.